There we go. Got it.
Thank you, man.
I
Yeah,
can
so
hit the got it button.
she's actually inspirational in that way. But she asked me at one point, she said, well, you don't actually believe that, Howard, do you? You know, and I said, well, I mean, because I was asking her, how does I could actually give you the interview. It went on for like 3 hours, but she she oh, she was great. She was
Believe
such
what?
an I say what she said. It was she got into hypnosis, and I said, well, how does that work? And you know, with non-duality, I mean, how, you know, are you thinking? I mean, do you believe, you know, consciousness? I mean, how does it work? Individual minds are manipulated through suggestion, and do you think that's actual? And she was, and you know, apply it as such. And she says, yes. Well, you don't really believe, you know, we're not conscious, do you? And I said, well, no, I don't believe we're conscious. And she's, no,
Hmm.
I don't think that there are any consciousness at all. And she said, and she was like, really, you know, and this is after like 2 hours into the thing, but you know, it was an interesting, it was an interesting conversation because there was no stopping her from exploring every little thing that she wanted to do. And
Yeah.
but she, I think, came off of uh, the non-dual thing quite a bit. But I don't know. I can't speak for her. But yeah, she's you know, she sees that things can work within the story, and she's saying, you know, there are methods within the story that can work for people for the better as an appearance, and that's good enough for her. And I said, well, yeah, I can totally understand that. That's great. Um,
I do understand that in the sense
yeah,
that, you know, uh, a so-called person can go to the gym and work out and make improvements to the body. I mean, there is these, you know, so a person can change their diet, you know,
yeah.
um, and
Is that a
if they
hint?
are, no, I'm just trying to think of, you know,
Yeah,
non-spiritual things that people apparently do to
yeah.
improve their relative existence.
Well, that was my reaction to. I was really curious about the consciousness and the way, you know, she was saying that hypnosis works, and I said, well, and that was my kind of reaction to that. If consciousness can be manipulated by suggestion within the story, okay, then what is the probability that it's actual, that consciousness is actually happening? I mean, if an individual can have their entire reality manipulated by suggestion and some words and some body language, what are the chances that you are actually experiencing a reality? You know,
Mhm.
and you know, and what does that mean exactly? Reality, if you can be so easily manipulated. And you know, she just she thought it was funny, you know, and she was like, "Oh, Howard," you know. But
Hmm.
I mean, that was my reaction. You know, I mean, if consciousness is that malleable, you
Yeah.
know, how can you rely on it to be actual, to be real, you know? And what is reality if it is so easily manipulated? You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah.
Subject object. You know, that's just, she was great though.
Huh. Because, well, what are your feelings about, like if someone says to you, what can I do to improve my human existence? Not
Yeah.
my human existence, but this appearance, this this body's experience of being alive.
Yeah, that's you know, I would imagine up to each individual appearance. You know, I mean, personally, I could say what makes me happy, or you know what I like, as
Hmm.
far as, because it's you know, it really, whatever makes you happy I'm good for it, as long as it doesn't hurt somebody. As long as you're kind to people and you're not hurting folks. I mean, it's all a story and all of that, but I kind of like to be around people that you know have a permissible and pleasant demeanor. They want to be kind to each other, simply because that's the atmosphere I like to be in. So, but they can do whatever they want. And uh as far as the messageless message is concerned, a lot of people say this can't help you, that can't help you. No, this is not about helping. It's true. You don't exist and all of that. But at the same time, I think it's incredibly helpful because there's no pressure for me
Yeah.
to. I don't have to worry about anything at all, really. I mean, again, um, look two ways before you cross the street, and hope you don't get tortured in a dungeon. But at the same time, be nice to each other, man. And I mean, just whatever makes you happy is great. There's absolutely nothing stopping you to do whatever you like to do. It's just not real. It's not, there's no, it's not even necessary to know, anything about non-duality, in essence. But
Well, the reason why I ask is because, like you said, like Giselle provides a service, hip, no, hypnosis or whatever it is, right?
yeah, yeah,
And so she's offering this to people, and I assume the basic reason is because this is going to help improve someone's life.
yes, yeah. And according to Giselle, she says it's, she's seen miracles happen with it and all of that kind of thing. So,
Yeah. So, but I mean, don't you? So, do you see? I don't see a conflict between that and non-duality.
no, not at all. I mean,
Just
no,
like
it's a story.
traditional therapy,
Yeah.
if somebody needed to go to therapy, I think it would be a good idea. I don't see a conflict. I
Yeah, I
think the people
actually.
that, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, please, man. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I wonder if it's just a misunderstanding for people to think that they're mutually exclusive. Even things like law of attraction or things like that.
Mhm.
I think the longer I'm around, I'm starting to see, like right off the bat, I was I was really radical and just like, no, that's all bullshit. That's all. This is the only,
You're right, right,
and
right.
and then as time went on, I got to see, oh, wow, how it really there is no duality.
Right.
So
Exactly.
to say that hypnosis is dualistic
Right.
is to think that there is something called duality.
Right.
All hypnosis is nothing appearing to do hypnosis.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's beautiful, and that's what she was saying. She was like, and it's beautiful. It's like this thing just happens out of nowhere, and these little miracles happen within the story, and there's all this synergy, and all
Hmm.
these different little things that seem to make weird connections. She's talking about premonitions and things of that nature, all kinds of stuff that she was bringing up, and she says, why should I, it's not, real. She's got her own take on it. I don't want to, I didn't really catch that too much. She was so into, she was just exploring everything. And her thing was, if I am free, and yet paradoxically, I don't have free will. It's both and neither. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to explore whatever I want to do. And that is the appreciation of the story. You're
Hmm.
in it. We're here as it appears. And so why not? Why not have fun? Why not be positive? Why? Because it's beautiful. There's
Yeah.
there's no there's no connection to anything. And so as it just appears and appears, even your free will, as it might seem, is just an appearance of a character, negotiating this stuff. And the more you just allow it to be, as you say, it's non-dual. There's no duality involved with it. So you know, all of it is just the appearance of all kinds of weird activity, you know, and people can make all kinds of connections and you can make it into whatever you want. But if you don't believe the story, it doesn't, you know, for me, if you don't believe the story, if you know, you don't really have to know anything about non-duality. But for me, it seems more brilliant because it's not me doing it, because it's not individuals in time and space, you know, it's nobody's doing anything. It's just appearing as such. And in that way, I find it amazing. I find it beautiful. I love it. There's no tether and no one knows anything. And
Yeah.
that's amazing. That's so beautiful. Everything is a story. And you know, why not just take a plunge, man, and be happy? You know, here today, gone tomorrow, whatever that means. We're not even here now. This is simply happening, not happening. So yeah, man. As far as I'm concerned, the you know, a lot of the speakers will say that you know, I mean, I wouldn't, why would, you know, there's nothing to talk about. You know, why would I even be here? You're paying me $20 or whatever. I heard this one guy say, you're paying me $20. You're coming here. I'm telling you about this. But if I wasn't doing this, if I wasn't making this money, you know, and you guys didn't want to hear it, I'd be out going bowling with my kids, man. It doesn't matter. Do whatever you want to do. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You know, Andreas says it, Jim, all of them say it. All of them. You know, it's true. Essentially, once you get to that place of lack of tether, you know, you could do your spiel. You know, this is why I came to this point, if it comes to that, if people are interested. But at the same time, have fun, man. It's not even relevant because there's no relativity.
Yeah. Yeah. My friend, Stephen Wingate was helping me to bridge some gaps. Because I think I even said it earlier about relative and the absolute. He's like, there's no relative in the absolute.
Yeah. It's so beautiful. Yeah.
Like I always wanted to make these distinctions. Well, this is the relative existence, and that's he's like, no, that's duality. He's like, this is non-duality. There is no separate relative existence and then the absolute, you know. So I'm seeing more and more that even, I don't know, something that I would have thought before is the most dualistic thing, that is this appearing as that. And it's all one and it's not separate and it's not, you know, it's
It's the coolest thing. It's the coolest thing. It's like, so, and it's, you know, there are times when, I'm sorry, I'm just jumping in here, but yeah, it's the coolest thing because I guess like 3 different times yesterday, you know, there came a point where I could have argued with people, you know, or bantered with them about this or that. And you know what? Yeah, you know, yeah, sure. Why not? Sure.
sure, why not? Yeah.
Yeah, why not? You know, sure. You know, I
Well,
mean,
it comes down to something, you know, it's like somebody likes grape jelly
yeah,
better than strawberry jelly.
yeah.
It kind of doesn't make a difference.
No, it really
If
doesn't.
someone wants to meditate, if somebody wants to any kind of practice, mantras, I mean, all of that is. I guess I'm seeing how it's
Psychiatry.
all it's all a part of what is, you
That's
know.
it.
And I mean, to reject anything. I mean, you could say, yeah, it doesn't seem to fit for me, so to speak.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the whole judging of other people is just over. It's just over in my mind.
The beautiful thing about it is, the less you push, the more
Mhm.
people ask. It's the weirdest thing. It's like if I say, I had a thing with about free will with this young lady who is beautiful. I love her. I've known her for a couple of years. She's great.
Jesse?
No, this is Deb.
Oh,
Deb's
oh,
happy.
okay.
And
I like
but she's
Jesse.
she's great. I don't know
Yeah.
if she's gonna come this week, but she's great.
Oh, okay.
She's I hope she does, but I don't know. But she said, but no, this lady Deb, she was saying, what is it? She, you have free will. Everybody has free will, and don't let anybody else tell you anything different. And my first reaction, I could have, I just could have laid into that, but instead of doing that, I said, okay, sure, I understand. And just, I can definitely see it that way. But then I made a post saying, kind of saying what she said, and then, I asked. She says, and I wrote, do you have, or everybody has free will. Don't you let anybody else tell you any different. And I says, did you choose to be born? And I wrote, and then no. And then I wrote, then how is it free? And so she came at me, from that post, and she says, well, I see you kind of humored me, and then, kind of went behind my back and made a post. And I was like, ma'am, I didn't want to, I don't want to argue with you because I don't know, but that is, it's a serious question. If it is if you have free will, and this is just talking to somebody that thinks that they exist. If I just come at them and say, you don't exist, this isn't real, and all that kind of stuff, they'll freak out and leave, they'll freak out and walk away. And I like her, so, I'm trying to talk to her, but at the same time, it doesn't really matter either. If she doesn't want to talk, she doesn't want to talk. That's fine. But she did. And I asked her a very simple question. As she, come to that post, and she says, and she couldn't answer. She still hasn't. And it's, it's a simple question of, how does that, where you believe that you choose? She said, well, I do believe that I chose to be born. I said, okay, great. You believe that you chose to be born. Can you tell me how that works? And she still hasn't got back to me. It's been a couple of hours, but it's one of those things where, yes, you believe you chose to be born. You believe, in this God.
We touched on that before when I was
Yeah.
saying about pre-birth planning and all that.
Yeah. Last week, I remember that.
It's just, well, you see, on one hand, I can say that is no different, but I guess the thing for me is I don't think that I was born.
Right.
I think there was a body born that was given a name, Walter, and etc. But there was never any individual in there with free will and choice, etc. It was just, like we say, an appearance. But even simpler than that is just, like I've heard somebody say, a meat robot. Yeah. So the idea that I had ever had choice, I can't see that.
Well, if I don't either. I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
Oh, I don't know. It's funny.
Well, I was going to say,
You and I are very similar. We just go on tangents, so we have to sort of interrupt each other.
Well, for me, free will is impossible. It's absolutely impossible, because no matter what if you think you have free will, then that would mean that everything about what's going on in your body. You have everything that's going on with your body, and your environment is absolutely controlled by your will. And that's impossible. That would mean that you would have, from whatever theory you think, you exist, you're physical, the space and time exists, dimensionality, the whole bit. If that is actual, okay, and you have free will, then you would have to have a piece of, if you believed in the Big Bang, from the moment of the Big Bang, you would have to have a decision in what has happened from the beginning of time to now. If you don't, and you don't know the processes of your own body here and now, then you don't have free will. There's no way that you can, say that you know what's going on with your own body.
Mhm.
And in fact, your own body changes cells out like what, every 8 to 10 years. It has a completely different body, right? So it's not even. Did you catch that?
I just read it. Yeah. Sorry. Oops. What happened? Well, if Rajiv is there, it's just the three of us, buddy. You can come in and,
Please do. Please do.
well, I wanted to talk to Rajiv also because I invited him here because he was messaging me questions. And I thought that if the three of us could just discuss them, it
Sure.
might be better than the written question,
Absolutely.
because a lot of them were so broad. And you saw some of them. What is nothing? What is, what is? So it's these types of questions, and I can't really figure out like what the purpose of them is. I guess I'm kind of trying to understand. What is blah blah blah? He just wrote.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't
He's
really
just, he's just
know.
having, yeah.
I want to be like, if he's serious, I want to give him the respect and answer his questions. But if he's just like fucking with me, then I got better things to do. So I thought if you came in here and explained like
Yeah.
what does that mean to you? When I ask questions, they usually meant something to me. Like
Yeah.
it seemed important for me to know the answer. But sometimes I feel like it's just questions just for the sake of asking questions.
Well, I like what he means by blah blah blah. I think is what he's saying. What he's saying is that it really doesn't matter. We're birds chirping in trees. We go back to that. But essentially, there's really nobody here. There's nobody asking a question. So it's just the appearance of somebody saying that they know or don't know.
All right, he
For the,
said it's only
yeah.
for the sake of asking questions. Okay, well then.
Well, for nothing. What do you think about this? For nothing, we have no example of nothing, right? I mean, we have no example in physics. We have no example in consciousness. We have no example in any way, shape, or form of nothing other than the conceptual numbers that require nothing and infinity, which all numbers do. And so, what is nothing? It's uh, the appearance of the need of a cause and an effect, like a cycle, because this is everything, so there must be its negation, a nothing. Because if a thing has not no thing, then what is a thing? If or if on has an on does not have an off, then what is on? So everything is nothing simultaneously, because it does, because there's no, it's not a cycle, it's not a thing that happens in increments of time. There's nothing before this or after it or around it, physically or time or space or dimension. None of that exists but this appearance of this immediate experience. And so this immediate experience is everything and nothing, because it's relative to no position. And
Hmm.
that's the that's what nothing is. This is nothing. Appearing is everything. you know I mean, and it's both simultaneously. I mean, that's kind of where I'm going with that. I mean, because it's like the conceptual, the people that say there must be an existence in order to negate it, but they're thinking in terms of dimension and causality. You're thinking in terms of time and space and mechanism, when in fact nothing is causing this. Okay, this isn't really a thing. So because it doesn't have anything to be compared to, it's simply, this is the totality, and that is not conceptual, and it's not or anything like that. It is simply happening as it appears. Three different guys answering and asking questions, but
Yeah.
that is everything and nothing. It's actually that simple. That's why it. A lot of people just can't grasp it. Nobody really can, but that's why it's so weird, because there's nothing controlling it, and
Mm,
it's not a thing. It's just happening, appearing as us doing this. It's pretty.
mm. Oh, I lost you, Howard. Oh, hey, Rajiv, are you still there, buddy? Oh, yes. Okay. What was the question you asked Jim Newman? I just watched that this morning and I saw you came up and you asked him a question. I thought it was a really good question. I just forget. He answered it and then that was it. You didn't have a follow up. But the question was really fascinating. I asked him, oh, here, let's see. I asked him to comment on the statement, what is never was. Oh, yes, yes, that was it. That was great. What is never was. Yeah, and I think I thought of that because that's what Howard was just saying. That's a perfect question. Maybe that's your thing. You're just a master at forming questions. The question can be more powerful than the answer. And that's a good example
Oh,
right there.
oh God, excuse me. I was I had to tell I had to tell my nurse I had to get here real quick. Sorry. You guys all
Oh,
right?
that's okay. Oh yeah, no, I'm gonna give you a question. Let's see if I can get it back. Where's the chat? Oh, there we go. Okay, here's the question from Rajiv. He asked this to Jim Newman the other day. What is, can you comment on the statement, what is never was?
this 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 never was. This. Yeah. I mean, never was is this. Yeah. Whatever you think happened did not happen. It's the appearance of a happening. Excuse me, I'm trying to catch my breath.
Yeah, oh yeah, take it easy. Yeah, it's okay. There's no rush. You know,
Yeah,
it,
so
it, okay, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Yeah.
No, please go ahead, sir.
No, I was just trying to fill in for you while you took a breath.
Yeah. No, that's the consciousness, okay, is the appearance of separation. So you have an individual that is aware of other things, has a memory, was born, is living, and will die. In that respect, yes, that story seems like there was a was, but there never was a was. So there's no space or time. The weirdest thing about it, it's so bizarre to actually try to make that work logically. I mean, there you're not conscious. There's not a you that has a history. There's the appearance of a you with a history here and now, which means absolutely, what is here now? What is the individual? But the appearance of a person thinking and having a memory. But you can't know that um, simply because you can't know the source of your thought. You can't know the source of your memory. And so um, it's a detachment. The story being that you have a physical brain that generates thought and feeling and sensation and all of that stuff, generates the story of the individual. But that is unsubstantiatable, and there's no connection there to the brain other than the story of sensation and experience. But again, that's unvalidatable. So I mean, pain is subjective. Pleasure as well is completely subjective. I mean, no, you can't. We can't share experience as far as individuals. I can't tell you, what a color is to me as opposed to you. I can't tell you, what something tastes like or feels like. Pain and pleasure, definitely take all kinds of different disguises. you know,
Mm.
so what is painful to one is definitely not painful to another. I mean, there are people that self emollients and all of that kind of stuff. The burning monks and all these kind of things, all throughout history. They're the appearance of history. There are examples of people that don't feel pain. You know, and there are other people that are way sensitive. Everything's like, oh my god, it's right there on your nerve tips. And but the point being that this is unshareable. There's no objective point for me to say what is or what is not uh, a was. That I would have to be able to tell you what this is in order to tell you what a was, and no one can.
So
So what
how do
is
we
it
get
never
a
was?
consensual reality, or like sort of history that we all agree happened? History that we teach children. How does all that come about? Like where we
Yeah,
all sort of agree on the same histories and realities.
yeah. We agree. We appear to agree to agree on a specific history, but I mean, like none of it is actual. Even if you wanted to believe in time and space, a shared history would be impossible for the very reasons I was just explaining. Not only that, but no, like your memory of a incident happening. Your memory, whatever a prominent memory may be, that is unshareable to anybody else, and it didn't happen for anyone else, because even if it is actual that you exist in time and space, no other person is going to have your perspective or your point of view, or that the same take on that event. So your memory is subjective to the self, um, and the connection to that physical source, that brain and that body that carries it around. That all these things happen in a succession of events within your life from whenever you started remembering stuff to now, and that is a was. But it is subjective to that point, no matter how you look at it. Even if you do believe in separation, the memory is subjective to that individual, and therefore it's not a history for anyone but that individual. And even the memory itself for the individual is inaccurate. It cannot be exactly as you remember it, simply because for this very reason, you can't tell me what is going on right now. If I gave you a year, you could not explain everything that's happening right here in this moment, or this apparent moment. So for that reason, whatever the individual thinks is a was, or history, even agreed upon or not, no two people look at it the same way, even in
Hmm.
the appearance of the story. So, and even the person that thinks of their own history is inaccurate, because they have to piece something together that makes sense for them, and ultimately, eventually, um, what appears to happen is this moment, and you're bringing this idea of individual, or a person would be bringing this idea of an individual memory, consciousness, sensation, pluses, pleasures and pains, and everything that goes with the baggage of separation, bringing it to this moment, and then making it appear as if we're trying to manifest some kind of understanding for a future. But that is the appearance of time and space in this here and now, without the validation that is required of physicality. Like, for example, that you are in fact thinking cannot be verified. So from that position, because you can't know that you're the source of your thought is a brain, or there is any, from that point, you can't know any source exists at all or anything, then everything becomes, it's not you thinking, it's not your story. All of these memories and all of this stuff culminating in this now, projecting into a future that also can't be known, is, basically just a circus of ideas that appear out of nothing. I like to say they cascade. Some people say, yeah, some appearances say that they come in many different ways, but they kind of cascade like words. Ideas kind of fall around me, and they're not really mine anymore. You know what I mean?
I mean, you
And
probably already answered this, but sometimes I'm not fully grasping everything. So let me put it this way. So you would say nothing ever happened, right?
yes,
S- But and at the same time, I could say my question to you would be: there seemed to be a Zoom last week, and I remember you being there, and I
it was a
remember
good
me
one.
being there, and I
It was
think
a good one.
Rajif was. I think he was there too.
He was there for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, and other people, whatever. But
Yeah.
I have this memory of last week, and I think if I said some things, you'd agree, like that happened.
Yes.
Like, oh, this person showed up at this time, and we talked about these things. We talked about the distance between the sun and the moon. I remember, I can remember last week, and you would sort of confirm some of these memories because you have them too. So that sort of so how do you explain both that's possible and that nothing ever happened?
Well, in the same way that I can explain why the sun and the moon are not separate, or that they don't exist, as Paul was alluding to. It's the same thing. It's the same, for the same reason that there is your, logically speaking, if we want to go with logic, there's, logically speaking, it is the nature of consciousness to not know its origin. You cannot know that there is a brain definitively. Nobody can know that. Consciousness, nobody can know whether physicality creates consciousness or consciousness creates physicality, for example. So, and what that means is you don't know definitively whether or not you have a body and a brain in time and space that is generating this story. That none of this is verifiable or validatable. So along that logical line of just, that's just the basic nature of existence, that the nature of consciousness is that it has no validation in an objective sense. Okay, you cannot know it because you are not your brain, and that is just how it is. You are not your brain, you are not your hand, you are not your eyes, you are not your hair. So you are not that object. So you cannot know that object definitively actually exists. You are the culmination of all of these things. You're the culmination of a brain, okay, that culminates into a mind and consciousness and thought and feeling. But that is not validatable. So everything that consciousness appears to be is a story about a guy that was born. Last week we had a Zoom meeting, and we can share this apparent reality. We could share a lot of aspects of what appear to be this here and now. We both appear to be breathing, and time and space seems to exist in this moment. Things like that, but it is not validatable in that you can't know specifically if you exist
Mhm.
as you appear in time and space as a body and a brain culminating in mind. You definitely can't know I exist definitively. Okay, you cannot know anything around you is actual. And in fact, no matter how you go about trying to find out whether or not it is, all you will find is more you can't know. It just, that is the nature of existence as it appears. It just doesn't exist as it appears. The nature of existence is that you appear to be an object in time and space relative to other things, matter and motion, cause and effect, um, duality. All of it is a story about relativity that cannot be verified. Cannot be verified in any way, even by its own logical nature, even by its own appearance. You can look into the nature of a thing, anything you want, and you will find no definition. There are no definitions, including for a brain, specifically for a brain, which is the reason why I harp on that, is because that is supposed to be the connecting source for what everybody believes to be the reality. But because it's not validatable that a brain actually exists at all, let alone is connected to a self, which a mind is, and a consciousness is telling a story about a self with a brain.
When you say it's not validatable, I mean, not talking about like they cut open your head, they could see a
You can stick your finger in your own brain. You can't know that it's
brain.
actual. Yeah.
What do
see,
you mean by
can't.
actual? I mean,
Well,
are you
you
saying
can't.
any different than any other organ?
It's not. It's absolutely the same as a bottle cap. It's the same as
Yeah, like my
it's
ear, you could say is not actual.
right. It's not. It's not even subjective because there's not a subject. But within the context of this logic, you can't even know that your own brain exists. So you can't know that I exist. You don't exist as a self because you are not your brain, and that's just a fact of the story. You are a culmination of brain, mind, consciousness, right? The body. But none of that is actual. None of that can be validated within the story. And this is consciousness. This is uh, somebody that let me see, what do they call it? A brain surgeon would, would say this. I mean, if Einstein and any other physicists you want to talk about, we're here now. Um, Dale Dennett, um, who is big on consciousness and all of that. You cannot verify the story that there is an individual in time and space here now. The story of the self, the reason why you can't describe self or consciousness is because it has no source and therefore no definition or definitive dimension. It's the story of an individual in relativity, but without a relative objective point in which to say everything else is actual. You're starting you're starting the story of relativity and separation with the subjective point of a self that cannot be defined, that can't, that no consciousness can be known to exist because no consciousness has a definitive source in which to validate the story that a mind tells about a self. And that is why the self doesn't exist. That is why there is no self. That is why there is no self doing something, because you're not thinking. You're not actually thinking. You're not actually, a mechanism. You're not a machine or a meat puppet in space and time or a dimension. It is the story of that. There is no space or time. There is no dimension. And the oddest, the hardest, the weirdest, most bizarre thing for people to deal with is that reality, that you cannot, that is the nature of reality. It's not like I'm trying to convince you of something. This is in fact the way it is. You cannot, it's not a concept. It's not something I'm trying to sell. This is reality. You cannot know it definitively. And no matter how obvious or apparent it seems to somebody, and no matter what they say, they can't prove it. They can't know it objectively. And so no matter who would be here now talking to you, no matter, Stephen Hawking, it could be, who's my favorite guy? I forgot his name already. Oh God, Penrose, my favorite guy, who has, just multiple degrees and Nobel Prizes and consciousness and quantum physics, all of that stuff. He has just spent his life trying to figure out scale and what it means to be absolute zero and absolute infinite, and there is none. He's saying he's got the best, alternative to a creation story I've ever heard. It's beautiful, but it's scalelessness. It has nothing, all of this. That's more of a physics side. But if you were to talk to him about consciousness, the first thing he says is, we are now assuming. Same with Einstein, in his papers that a lot of people don't want to read, say this is predicated on the assumption that I exist as an individual in time and space. That cannot be verified. It can't, because you are not that object. And that, because in space and time, all objects navigate space and time separately. That is, no two things can be in the same spot at the same time within our scale. You go into quantum, it gets a little weirder, but within these very basic physics realities of the story of a body, these are the limitations. And so if you want to know something objectively, you're going to have to find another reality, because there is no objective reality here. There is no way to tell whether or not the story is actual. And therein lies, no matter what happens, deep sleep. I agree. But yeah, so therein lies, that's the rub. So essentially from there, physics is not going to help you. Okay, your own stories, whatever you want to come up with, God started it all. I mean, that's the premier beginning of God and philosophy, all of that stuff, religion, where it's a God. God is the primary mover, because you can't know the source of your own thought, so you have to come up with a big God in the sky that is the source. But that's just another story without validation, right? So you are God, like a lot of people will say, is just another story. And it just goes more and more. And so there is no objective truth to anything. And that's the beauty of it. I mean, that's why it's so amazing, because it's not as it appears. And so from there, just looking around as an individual, looking around in time and space in this immediate experience, that being the totality of existence, now you have, but that being relative to no other position, and no universe exists, no space or time, no dimension, no nothing. This is everything and nothing. And it's just appearing as this mundane moment. I love it so much. It's amazing. And so, I mean, for me, that is what I think Giselle means by a playground. That's what I think, a lot of these guys are talking about. That's the way I see it. I mean, that's the best way I can explain it, in a logical form, Yeah. Oh, hey. Oh, hey, how you doing, man? Hang on, my nurse is here. Hang on one second.
Okay.
The other day and clean up real good and everything. So I'm so glad you're here. Please talk on the phone, take your time, do whatever you like. Thank you. I'm sorry, you there, Walter?
Boop, boop. Hey, buddy.
You there? Oh,
Yeah,
sorry,
I'm here.
man.
I'm here.
Yeah, so let me see back. Go back.
Oh, your picture went away.
There I am. Okay. Yeah, so
I ask a lot of questions because it's hard to explain, but the only The only thing that seems to be something that I really have a sense for is the fact that there's no one here. you know, that I have a sense for. I know that sounds funny, but there is that absence. I guess there's a felt sense of an absence. There's so that's that belief that I am an individual,
Right.
or a felt sense that I am a separate individual with autonomy and all that. Um, it's not there. So there's just a feeling of being a part of whatever this mystery is, just and that this is all just a play of whatever. But I don't know, like you explain it well with scientific and other influences, and you're able to put it all into words. Yeah, whereas some of the concepts can be a little dense. Uh, does that make sense? So, like, even though I think I can speak about non-duality from just that perspective of well, it's not a perspective, but just because that false sense of being separate has been alleviated, or whatever you want to call it. But I can't like get into all the nooks and crannies and explain every little facet like it seems you can. And I wonder, is that because there's I think I tried to mention this last week. Is there a combination of knowledge and experience? Like somebody without any of the knowledge, but just the experience, I think would have a hard time explaining how nothing ever happened or something like that,
I was luck.
or
Well,
the distance between the sun and the moon and all these kind of more heady type discussions.
well, yeah, I was lucky. I mean, in this appearance, I've had 45 years with this. I mean, to try to explain what this is. So, I mean, 45 years in the appearance of it here and now. I mean, I was 8 years old, and that's my story. I have not been able to explain what happened for 45 years. And but so I've learned over the years
Oh,
how to
so
like,
you've been at it for a long time. That's
yeah,
why.
yeah. So it's I found out really quick though that yeah, I mean there are certain things that people can deal with, and certain things that I mean, as a rule, people don't want to hear. I mean, and you learn how to shut up. I mean, like personally as a kid, I mean, that was crazy. I mean, it was nuts.
So how were
So
you explaining this when you were a kid? I'm curious.
oh,
Like
man,
before you, yeah.
it was brutal. It was brutal, man. Yeah, it was brutal. I was
Because you
telling
didn't
my
have all the
teachers,
language for it, I wouldn't think yet, like you do now,
oh, not at all.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
yeah, and I'm going to throw myself out there, and just say, because this is the way it was. I mean, I was shown things or saw things, and they happened, and I was like, holy crap, man! I mean, this really happened, and that's how it appears to me. But no, I mean, I was told that stuff was going to go down, and it went down like really fast, and it blew my mind. I told my mom, before this, my dad got sick, I was showing that my dad was going to be sick, and I told my mom, I think, dad's going to get sick, like really sick. And she said, "Oh, you're crazy. Why do you say that?" And I told her I had a dream. I had a dream, and I couldn't tell her I couldn't tell her what I was, what had happened. I couldn't figure it out myself, and still can't. And so, I told her, dad's going to get sick. And she said, "Oh, you're crazy." And I said, I knew within a couple of weeks this was going to go down. 10 days later, my dad was gone forever. I mean, he survived, but um, he he never recovered. He never made it for all. And just like the little story or the little I was told that this, for all intents and purposes, he was going to be out of my life. I was shown that I would be here, like in this bed, uh, at the age of like 40. I mean, it's like I knew that I would be crippled by the time I was 40. I don't know, and it's just one of those things. I don't know how to say it. I know that sounds flaky and whatever, and that's just my story, but that's what it is, and I looked at my mom when they were carting my dad away, and I looked at her, and she just, we never talked about it, So I go to school, and I'm like, there are no lines. I was trying to tell my mom, there are no lines, there are no colors, there's no space. And I don't think time exists, things like this. There are no colors, there are no lines. And yeah, they called my mom in from work and stuff, said, Howard's definitely, something's up, something happened.
Hmm.
And and I was trying to explain to people there is no light or dark or right or wrong or good or bad. And there is no time or space. And I don't think this exists. This is not real. And for all intents and purposes, things that an 8-year-old would say along that line have been coming out of my mouth ever since that night it happened, that day it happened. And that's the story of me. So all my life I've been reading religious books, and trying to science, because I knew it wasn't a god and it wasn't science. It was kind of something both in a way. I was trying to figure out how to say it. You know, it's not a god nor not a god or not a god. You know what I mean? It's not it's not just science either, but it's you know it's the lack of relativity, the lack of a cause, the lack of a source. And it is, yeah, that did not go over well with a lot of adults.
Mm.
I wasn't saying relativity stuff, but I was just saying, no, there's no, this isn't real, and this isn't time and space. And had I not, I've spoken to my mother a little bit about it since, and she really didn't realize, um, all these years later, she just, we had this kind of moment where, it's like a bit of it, she acknowledged, that, oh, I did not realize what you were saying. And I said, yeah, it's how it's been all my life. So it's kind of weird how things come full circle in that way, but that's just the story of it. I can't
Mhm.
explain because there is no time or space. That story of that kid seeing something ahead of time is like Giselle would say, you know what? It is what it is. I can't explain it. There's no,
Have you
there's
had
no,
that experience since then of
yeah,
premonitions
yeah, yeah.
regularly? Yeah.
Every now and again. Yeah. I mean,
Wow.
it could go 5, 7 years, it could go 2, 2, 3 years. Um, every now and again, though, I'll get a good one. I had like a few of them. The last one was the Andreas Mueller interview.
Oh
I,
yeah.
I,
You
oh yeah,
you knew you were going to interview him ahead of time?
yeah. Well, it was a funny story. It's a funny. You want to hear it? I mean, it's a funny story.
Is it the one about you going into that his talk and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Essentially,
yeah.
like,
You know what's funny about that? I think I was there.
where you?
Yeah, did you and you kept saying like in the context of a Q and A. I remember that
Yeah, in
phrase.
the context of a
Uh,
Q&A.
yeah, the Q&A, and
Yeah.
I was like, what? Why does he keep talking about Q&A? I couldn't. I was having a hard time understanding what was
Well,
being asked.
we are conceptually here, with, because we're talking. So
Hmm.
it's the idea that we are individuals thinking and communicating is conceptual, or it is the story of individuals in time and space. So, but we know that that's not what's happening. We know that that's not what's happening. It's the appearance of that happening. So within the conceptual self is this story of a consciousness. So you have this story of a memory and an awakening or something like this, or a premonition or whatever. And within those parameters, we are here now asking questions about knowledge and reason and logic, and none of it is verifiable or real. I mean, none of it can be verified. None of it is validatable. And that is why knowledge doesn't exist in an objective sense. In an objective sense, no logic, reason, no words exist. Actually, words are our duality itself. I mean, they're the expression of duality, the expression of an individual or two individuals, 2 points in time and space that are communicating intellect. But there are no 2 points in time and space. You need that assumption when you use words. You need the assumption of separation in order for us to communicate. So um, but there are no 2 points, there are no two consciousness, so there is no knowledge. It is the appearance or the story of two individuals exchanging information, but there is no
Hmm.
information, there is no knowledge, there is no validatable reality in which for that to be true. And well, and that's why, UG would say, or like I like to say, UG would say bark. It's like we're just dogs barking. I like to say we're just birds chirping in trees, because there is no foundation for us to say what we are saying is either true or false. So
Hmm.
in that respect, uh, I can't know your reality. I can't know anything about what's going on with you. You can't know anything about what's going on with me. I can't know what's going on with me. Is actually real. So what am I saying as far as true or false? It's a bird. It's just chirping. It's just a sound. It doesn't. It has absolutely no
Do you think,
verifiable, validatable thing.
can thoughts be causative?
Well, I mean, they can appear so. Yes.
Like, can your thoughts influence events?
No. It's the story. See, this is the thing. My story's a little. It's a little. It's a little more dramatic than I'm hearing a lot of people's story. A lot of the speakers I hear are basically saying, yeah, it all just dropped away one day. And that's beautiful, and that's great. And that's great. But that wasn't the way it was for me. It was like, bam, bam. Everything was obliterated, obliterated. There was no thing at all. And not even the self. There's no position in which to say there is a thing. So
At 8 years old?
literally, yeah, yeah, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And it was amazing. But it was scared scared the bejesus out of me. But it also like I said, you know like seeing things, knowing things, that is the story. None of that is true. It's not real, but it's the story. Like I can't say for it, it's the cone analogy, or like the timeline analogy. Like if you're saying, um, when was your awakening? When did you have this shift in perspective? Well, for me to say, like, here's the base cone of Howard, like all of these stories that make me who I am. Okay, they come into this point on this timeline, like a graph paper or something like that. And within all these little squares on this graph paper is a time and a space and a story about what happened that at that moment. And the point of this cone comes to that graph paper. I was 8 years old when I was shown things. And then under that paper is what happens. And there's no reality in which to call that, in which to be able to explain it. There's no foundation in which to say any of that is true. It's all ridiculous. It appears to have happened in my life in a time and a space, but time and space don't exist, in an object. So what I'm saying is I never was a, this isn't cause and effect. There is no matter in motion. All of that stuff is completely, is just the illusion of
Hmm.
of things happening. And the thing that lit the fire under my butt so much was, my dad, and a few different things that I saw, and different little things throughout my life where you have those brushes. I have those brushes on occasion. So where you cannot explain how something's going to happen, but it does. And when you feel it, you're like, oh man, that's going to happen. I know that's going to happen. And in my story, it happens. But that is all just a fairy tale. I mean, relatively speaking, it doesn't exist. But that is me. That's my story. So
Mhm.
I don't know how to, there's no validatable way to say it's true or not, because there is no true or false. There is no reality. Um, Not as it appears. So that's just what it is. Um, and so yeah, I did not realize that. I didn't know how to say a lot of these things when I was a kid. All I was saying was, there are no lines. There is no, I'm not real. This isn't happening. This is not real. And I think people took to this isn't real more so than you don't exist. To say to somebody that they don't exist really puts them off. I mean, they don't like it at all. And but to say that this isn't real, it landed me some more friends. I mean, I was able to kind of, kind of manipulate that story a little bit, where I mean, people could take that. Well, yeah, this isn't real, but they
And have
don't
you
know why.
ever like talked about this? I mean, in a since it happened so young, I mean, all these years, have you ever been in a position where you were sharing this message?
Like with psychiatrists or something,
No, no, no,
yes.
no. No, I
Yeah.
mean with just with folks,
Yeah.
regular
Well,
people.
well, see, this is the weirdest thing.
I don't mean as a teacher necessarily, but just like, oh, people who find value in the fact that you have a different perspective.
My
You know,
friends know. My friends
yeah, yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and my friends know, and I've have, I've had a lot of different people over the years that you know, yeah, yeah. There's a lot of different stories there involved in that. Yeah, I have talked to people, but never on this kind of scale. I never really realized. See, that was the thing about Facebook that really opened things up for me, because I was telling people, there literally is nothing. There literally is nothing. You don't have any eyes or nose or head, or you don't have a brain. You don't have anything. Existence does not exist. And all of these things, but I had never been a part of any I didn't even know what non-duality was. In all of my studies, it never occurred to me. Like I read some of that stuff, the Advaita and all of that, but
Mhm.
I didn't like. I didn't like it. I didn't like the pageantry of it. Yeah, it's just too much. It just seemed like complete horseshit. It still does. I mean, a lot of it is just stories. So, and just like mine, it's just another story. And so, when I looked at it, I didn't want to go through books like this thick to get this much information. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but I did read some books, some of those things and stuff, but it never clicked. And I didn't know what non-duality was until a couple of years ago. Um, I- Somebody on Facebook would say, "No, yeah, you're into non-duality." I was like, "What is non-duality?" I was like, "Well, it means not
So
two."
it was only like 2 years ago that you were
I
turned
think
on
it
to
was
non-duality.
it's probably about five years ago, something like that.
Oh wow.
Where yeah, something like that. It wasn't long ago. I don't know how long, but it
And
wasn't.
did you feel like, oh, this is kind of where I
Not when I
belong?
when I when I heard not two, I said,
Yeah,
"Yeah, not
yeah.
two. Yes, not two." I couldn't believe it. I was like, "Yeah, not two," and but I didn't know. Like forever, I had heard about non-duality. It just had never clicked. And then I met up with Nancy Neithercut, and I read her poetry, and I was like, "Man, this." I'm not disagreeing with anything this girl's saying. I mean, I really
Yeah.
like this, but but the real, I mean, the nail in the coffin, and where I got put into the non-dual section of Facebook, which was funny to me. There's like all of a sudden I'm accepted into a group of non-dualists. That's like the most bizarre paradox I've ever heard in my life. I was like, how does that work? I mean, what do you mean? There's groups of people that are non-dual? What do you mean? And the next day, yeah, and because it didn't make any sense, I was like, what do you mean? And then I got hooked up with Andreas Mueller, and when I heard his stuff, I was like, oh, yes, oh, how simple, yes, and I couldn't believe, because I was talking myself into these pretzels. I was trying to explain these things to people, like in general population, like whoever would listen. And it was so, because I had been pigeonholed more and more, like my disability was like making me less and less, I mean, I couldn't go anywhere or do anything. So I mean, all of a sudden I had this outlet of Facebook, just talking to anybody and everybody. Had no idea that basically everybody in the world can hear it or see it, and it just wasn't real to me. I didn't think that the people were real that I was talking to. I thought everybody was just playing. I thought it was a game. And eventually I started meeting some of the people that I was talking to. I was like, holy shit, this is real. These are real people, or
Yeah.
within that physical reality. And then
You thought they were just
I just thought it was
full of
like
it?
robots and stuff. No, I thought it was all robot. I thought it was just Facebook. I thought Facebook was like a video game. I literally had
Oh.
no. I swear to God, I was just talking to people like
Oh,
it was
bots.
just, yeah, everybody was a robot, and it was just like an interactive kind of thing. And I was just, and it was years went by before I realized that these are real people I'm talking to. It took on a whole new meaning. I was like, oh my God, I'm actually talking to people. And people had said it before, but I didn't really take it seriously. And then all of a sudden, I started realizing I'm actually talking to people, and then all of a sudden I was like, wow, people are actually listening to me. I mean, I couldn't believe that people were actually interacting with me in this way. And then eventually I just got bivouacked into that non-dual kind of thing, and which I thought was the biggest paradox of all time. A group of non-dualists. But then, and that was it was at first kind of a little bit weird, because I didn't know how to be with people that like understood what I was talking about, or like, or
Yeah.
on some level could have it. And the next thing you know, uh, like you and Giselle and everybody, many people say, there's this disillusionment with all of a sudden I come walking into like these different groups, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm with my people now. It's like, oh my, this is so weird. There's so many people that are into this. I'd never experienced anything like it. And then I started writing, and people just started tearing me down. Like immediately, everybody was just tearing me down, and I was like,
Oh, wow.
wait a minute, wait, you know wait a minute. There's different kinds of non-duality. There's different ways to do this. And it's just a real adventure. I can't, I love it. It's been fun, it's been great. And it's getting better all the time. But yeah, I liked Andreas and Nancy, and there's so many people that I met, but Andreas was the one that got me thinking about actually talking to people, because I saw some link somebody showed me a couple of years ago, where he said that he just started doing it, and nobody came for months, like 6 months. He said nobody came,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then and eventually people started coming, and I said, well, man, I mean, I came into a little bit of money, I figured I'd open a page, and it would just, and I would just start doing it. And because it doesn't matter if it works or not. I mean, I'm just talking. I like talking to people. So yeah, that's how this whole thing. So like a couple of months ago, I started doing the meeting here, and I opened that page. I've got the computer. I just had the cable guy come, and they redid all this stuff. I got my tech guy I'm supposed to talk to tomorrow, and he's going to help me start editing a lot of this crap. And not crap. I mean, the funny thing is that some of this stuff is really great, even with people that you wouldn't think, like the most unknown folks say the most amazing things. There's some of the best stuff is from absolute nobodies. I mean, people that nobody knows. And I know that I'm gonna, I mean, I think that it's gonna be fun to just do that kind of stuff. I love it. I've got all kinds of time on my hands, and as I said, this is kind of something that I saw coming, and that's not a
What
lot.
happened to some of your interviews? Didn't you interview Sandeep?
Yes. Well, see that went on Skype, so I can
Oh,
invite you into that Skype meeting so you can hear that interview. Anybody that
oh,
wants to
okay.
hear that, it was great, and I'm going to do that with Sandeep again, and we're going to have all kinds of different. I'm just going to do everything I can with that page. I'm sorry, I went on forever there. Sorry about that,
Oh no, I was curious. Because I knew you had a few, and I just hadn't seen them. The only one I saw was Andreas.
Well, yeah, he's the only one that posted it on YouTube. I mean, the one with Giselle and I was, like I said, it was like 3 hours.
Yeah.
So
No, I did
it's
see
like,
that. I did see that too. Yeah, yeah. Sorry,
and but
forgot.
then yeah, I've got that. I got Sandeep. I tried to do Benjamin, and didn't work out at that time. I've done a couple of other smaller name people, and it's like it's like, for instance, this me. There's going to be, I'm hoping to have you all over the page and everything. I mean, there's going to be all kinds of stuff from just the weekly meeting, and then
Hmm.
I've had a couple other. I've had Alex Saez, who was
Hmm.
great. That went on for like 4 or 5 hours. That was crazy. Um, that was a great interview, though, man. He's good. Um, and there's a few others, but for the most part, it's going to be the meeting. Those people. Alex has a lot of great things to say, but everybody's got their own take. It's so amazing. Yeah, it's fun. But yeah, nobody. And that's another thing. It's like I'm in this situation where there's no, I don't have a job. I don't have to work. Um, this is what I've been doing all my life anyway. I came, so really, it's almost like it's just, why not?
Hmm.
Why not do it? And,
No, I think it's great, and you ask great questions. So I think this is the start of something really cool.
man, Walter, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. You don't know.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, it really, really, thank you. I mean, we're the only ones here, right? Us and Aziz. And
Kokila is in here.
oh, is Kokila here?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I thought you saw her. I would have mentioned it sooner.
Oh, did she come? Is she still here?
Yeah,
Oh,
she's
hey,
here.
Yeah,
Kokila.
I'm here.
I'm sorry.
Am I muted or I'm, oh yeah, okay.
No, you're in there now.
Yeah, I've been listening.
Hey, Miss Kokila. Sorry, I didn't see you come in.
That's okay. I've been interested in just listening to what you're saying. And how would you, okay, if there's nothing and nobody and there's non-duality, how would you describe this moment right now with the three of us, that
It's
we're all one?
impossible. Well, we're not one. I mean, one is a number that requires two, right, to
It's the
exist.
loneliest number, by the
Yeah.
way.
Well, not
Right.
non-duality.
Well, one is a number that requires two. You need separation in order for one to exist, right? So
Well, non-duality, say, instead
okay,
of
so
one.
not two. Yeah, so not two. Not two is essentially. How long have you been here today?
Right now, 10, 15 minutes.
Okay, you might have just missed. But okay, okay. I'm trying to figure out. See, you're. I read the book, okay, that you
Yeah,
sent me, and it's beautiful. Thank you. I love the way he uses God, the word God.
yeah.
Um, but what would you say about that? Well, I mean, do you think he's actually talking about a deity?
Talking about what?
A
A
deity.
deity?
Yes.
Well, like I said, before I sent the book off, I used to just pick the book up and it was beautiful, as you say, and I would just turn to a page once in a while or another page. And so when I was sending it to you, I started reading it once more. And I thought, well, you know, if you start at the beginning, then it really evolves into everything that he believes, basically. And
Right.
so his whole thing is, well, because I told you the story that when he was 16, he suddenly thought he was going to die. And he thought, well, if my physical body dies, what's going to be left? And he lay down and suddenly something took over his whole body,
Right.
which he didn't know what it was. He thought he was sick. And he tried going back to school and going to school, but he would go into samadhi so deeply and the kids would throw stones at him to get him to move, and he was gone. I mean, he was really in samadhi. Finally realized he could not continue his old life, and he left his everything. He left his family, his mother and his brothers, and went to Arunachala mountain, where he lived until he was 70 years old. He never left the mountain, and he lived in caves for 17 years. So what he calls it, the self. That's what he calls it, right? Because that's what he felt came into him. And yeah, so I'm interested. Some of his pictures, you'll see him lying on his bed, a lot of them. So when I was in Tiru at his ashram, there's the meditation room, and he's lying on, and his bed is in there. And it's a very, very powerful spot, very powerful. And there's a story about, he used to give darshan that's there, and people would come in from all over, and they would want to touch him, of course, and hug him. And so his disciples that lived there, they had now built a little place for him to live, and also this room, the meditation room. And they put up a little gate in front of the bed. And he didn't want to tell them not to put the gate up, but what he said was, well, move the bed closer. Move the bed closer to the gate, you know. So this is where he had his darshans lying on his bed. And yeah, I was thinking about you there.
Well, the so see, I think in a lot of ways he's speaking to several different people. He's speaking to several different appearances of people. When he's the way the book is designed, I think that there's he's saying that the self is God, and I am that. But then, you know, at the same time, God doesn't know anything and can't know anything. And he's calling that consciousness. So God is an unknowable entity that literally has no, I mean, what is it? I mean, what would you say he means by God is the self?
Well, the one thing that he did worship was the mountain, Arunachala, which is not even tall enough to be a mountain, but they call it a mountain. And it's the oldest mountain probably in the world. It was there before the Himalayas. So he believes that's the residence. And he was brought up Hindu. And interesting enough, there's not really anything in this book or in his teaching about the Hindu gods except Shiva. And he believes that this mountain is Shiva, that this is Shiva is one of the trilogy. The Brahma is the creator, the Shiva is the destroyer. The destroyer of the illusion is what he really is. He's the, you know, and then the restorer, which is Vishnu. So his whole thing is that everything is Shiva, because the three in one, you know, the three in one God, they're all one. And so this mountain for him symbolizes the home of Shiva. And when people would go to visit him, he did not give teachings. I mean, aside from the few things that are in the book, mostly he would sit with people and his presence was just so powerful, and he was just love. And I think that's the way to really describe him, or God, or his belief in God was just a love, basically.
Yeah, so we were talking about that. Walter and I were talking about that at the beginning of the meeting. Essentially, can there be something positive? And in this way, if you want, the way I see what how do you say his name?
Ramana Maharshi. Yeah.
Ramana Maharshi. The way I took it was, what he's saying is this immediate experience is the totality of existence, but he's not saying that you are conscious or that you are God in the traditional sense. What he is saying is he's referring to what we appear to be in this moment, what we appear to be here and now, as relative to what seems to be happening in time and space as this immediate experience. Say, like, he's not saying that you're separate from what you are experiencing through consciousness. Okay, consciousness itself is that story of a person in separation, in relativity, in time and space. But what he's saying is, to me, and this is just cursory, but he's essentially saying that the self as it appears, like Walter is a self, I'm a self, you're a self. I mean, loosely translated, that positive or that negative or whatever you want to call it, that feeling is not as it appears in this world of space and time, but it simply is this immediate experience as the totality and the story of a person that transcends that ability to see beyond subject object, the ability to see beyond a self and other, and to see what is happening, not happening, outside of dimensional cause and effect. So what he's saying is that, to be kind and to be, and to be God and to see beyond these things. He's essentially saying the same thing, that we were kind of talking about earlier between Walter and I, that, is there a positive, or is there, doesn't matter what we say or do or any of these things. And essentially, you come to a point where, sure, why not? And sure, yeah, you want good things, for the people in the immediate experience. It's not real, it's not as it appears, but it is beautiful. And it is, so these different appearances come by, and you touch them in a positive way. That, in a way, is what he's talking about. You come to a point where you have risen above the subject object aspect of the story, and just simply see it as, the story of an individual being aware of other things. And yet, that is just, it's actually the story of a source, the story of an explanation. To call it God, the reference point of the self to other, yeah, I could, okay, sure, it's God. What you want to do with that, it's completely up to you. You're God. But yeah,
Non-duality. I mean,
yeah.
I only learned about it's funny because I was going to India and many gurus and so on, and I only learned about non-duality probably 4 or 5 years ago, like you said. That was the first time I heard it, but that is in all of the Rishi's writings, although I don't know if they even wrote, but in all of the Upanishads and the Vedas, that's the whole premise, is non-duality. And yeah, so I mean, well, when Ramana died, everybody, he was dying of cancer, and he still was having people come, even though he was very weak, and he had them make him sit up so he could see the people coming. And he said, why are you worried about, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, he said, and I believe it when I go into that room, he's there, you know. It's like he's there as much as he was there when he was in his body, because like I said, he usually didn't even talk to people. He was more interested in them talking to him. And yeah, so now I can't hear you. Okay, I still can't. I see you now. Or hear you.
Sorry about that. Yeah, that was
Okay.
another. So yes. Oh God, did I lose what I was saying? Oh, I lost what I was saying. You were saying something about feeling. Oh yes, that's it. He was saying that time and space don't exist, but he is infinite, and there is no reincarnation, which I agree with. I mean, time and space doesn't exist, but you're infinite. I think what he means by that is the story of himself, the story of who he was, is here now, and so within our stories, and it appears that he was an individual that existed in time and space, that his teachings were actually from a man that was born, lived, and will die. He, or has died. But I think when he says that time and space don't exist, what he's saying is, don't look at my teachings as if I was a human being in a past. I'm not a person that existed in time and space. He is culminating now in what we appear to be experiencing as separation in time and space, talking about another individual, but none of us are individuals. It's the story of that. And it emerges now as right here, right now, as him teaching, this infinite aspect of what appears to be a time and a space. But it's, even infinite is not, it can't be, it's having to do with time. It's literally dimensionless. There is no separation between Maharshi and you, me. So
Right.
in that way, we're one in that kind of God sense where that he's referring to. Now, I'm not saying that, he is saying that, and I think that's what he means, that we appear to be these conduits of subject object, but rising above that subject object duality, and seeing our kind of individual ports as just points of that story of time and space and cause and effect and matter and motion, and a man that existed 50 years ago saying these things. But that is this now infinitely. So it's not
Yeah.
that he existed then or we exist now. It is
Right.
the story of us experiencing his
Yeah.
teaching.
Well, and that's why what he said to do to find out who you are is to ask all yourself, who am I, all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
he's not expecting that you're going to come up with an answer. He's expecting that you're going to see who you are not, that you're going to realize that you're not the body, you're not the mind.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Yeah, I agree. I got that too. I think what he was saying is very similar to what I say when I say you are not your brain in time and space. You are not your body. This is
right,
not a dimension.
right.
He's saying essentially the same thing, and he's using words like God and things like that. But it's not that traditional God like in the Western sense.
No,
That,
no, no.
yeah.
It's not even the Hindu God, like I said,
Right.
except so
I like
yeah.
the way he used it. I was pleasantly surprised, because usually when people use words like that, I get turned off immediately, because as soon as you start telling me a story about some other God, that he's responsible for something. Yeah, I just blank off. I have no use for it. But I like the way that he used the pointer, and I was pleasantly surprised. I had to be honest with you. It was beautiful, very nice. I loved it.
Yeah, I thought you would appreciate it and love it because it is beautiful, even if you had other ideas, if you didn't
Yeah,
accept the whole thing, So
exactly.
yeah,
Well, the funny thing is that I totally see what he's saying. Um, I see what he means. And it's, at
right,
first I have to be honest with you, using words like self and God,
right.
it's like, this is not starting off well. but but as I love the way the book was produced. I love the way it was put together, the illustrations and the points that he made. Now, I only read it once, and this is only a cursory understanding. This is what I got from it, and I think I was pleasantly surprised, and I kind of understand, a little bit more now, um, insofar as who this guy is and what he's saying. He's not talking about the self as a body or a brain or a thinker or a
No,
doer. He's not
no,
talking about a God that is you, that is this. No, he's talking about what essentially non-dualists talk about, is like what the consciousness being simply not, it is the illusion of separation within the context of the immediate experience. And it seems like almost like a port of or some kind of I don't know, like a neuron in our brain or something, a port where information exchange, relays. And but you can see beyond that. Once you see beyond that story, then it's just, as I was saying to the fellows earlier, it's kind of like thoughts just begin to cascade. They're not your own. It's not like you're thinking in time and space. This is not a life as it would appear. It is these cascading ideas of you know something, that's not time and space. It's not matter and motion. It's not relative to anything, and it's not a God or a self, but it appears to be both. It
yeah,
appears to be that way. I
yeah.
think it's
So,
beautiful.
do you know Papa G? You know of Papa G?
Nah, not
No.
really.
Well, he's another Indian guru. He has also died now, but he went to Ramana, and he was just blissed out there. And this was the time when, around 1948, when India was separating into Pakistan, and so Papaji had parents that lived in uh, the border, well, in Pakistan, or what was India at the time. And Ramana said, you know what, you have to go back there and rescue your parents. And he said, no, I'm fine. I just want to stay here and bliss out and just be with you. And he said, no, you have to go back. Your parents are in danger. And he went back, and sure enough, he had to help them escape from where they were. And yeah, so
Wow.
Ramana knew a lot of
Knows
things.
he knew stuff too, huh?
He knew stuff also, yeah, about what was happening. And yeah, didn't want him to just stay, didn't want Papaji to just stay. So Papaji went on to be his own guru in Lucknow in India, and many people have gone to him. In fact, that's Muji's guru. Yeah,
Really?
Papaji. Yeah, he was with Papaji.
Wow. See,
Yeah.
you get me tangled up in all these names, man.
Yeah, I know.
I should learn them, because people ask me questions about that kind of stuff, and I don't know which one's which and what they're talking about. So, I mean, it would not be a bad idea to, I know a little to learn about some of that stuff, because obviously the words are not in. They're, I can't. We don't share the same words. Every language, not only that, but every conversation appears to have its own language. So for me to be dismissive of these people, simply because they're using a different vocabulary, is probably probably a mistake on my part, I would say, if within that frame. Of, I mean, why not look into it and see what they're actually saying, so
Well,
that I can.
I've been with Muji in Tiruvannamalai and in Rishikesh as well, and yeah, he is really wonderful, and he was in oh God, I can't think. Anyway, but he's more very direct. He's not like you have to meditate for all this, people want to become his disciples for life. And he's like, no, I just want you to get it now and know it and move on. And I've been at his talks, and there were like 2,000 people and young people and from all over the world, and also Indians, but this is in India, but yeah. So he's one that I really,
I think a lot of the silence stuff that a lot of these guys do, the silence stuff, I think has to do with, you got 2,000 people coming to a show, right? You're coming to your, whatever you call it. And, there's only so many ways you could say there's only so many ways you could say something. So when you're talking to 2,000 people, you want them to understand that, okay, I'm going to try to explain something to you now. So to give that proper respect, and to be silent within yourself and actually listen to what I'm saying, that kind of thing. I think it was far more necessary. I've never thought silence or the negation, noise or silence really mattered at all to me. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, you don't have to sit in silence. At least I
yeah,
never had to. So,
no.
but I think a lot of times when there are several thousand people coming to you, and you're like, you're having these talks. Yeah, you want people to, calm down, listen to what I'm saying.
Well, he doesn't sit in silence, and what he does, he doesn't even give a spiel. He just has people ask questions individually. They'll come to the microphone and ask, and of course there are questions that probably a lot of people in the audience are asking as well, and he'll
Oh,
reply to those.
I was talking about Ramana.
Okay. We're back
Yeah,
with
sorry.
not
Sorry.
Muji. Oh, yeah, no, Brahma didn't have several thousand people. He had a few sadhus that came and hung out with
Oh,
him.
so
And,
you were
yeah.
saying that Moji has a couple of thousand. Okay, I see.
Yeah. No, Ramana, no.
Okay.
So Ramana, his mother tried to get him to come back. He's 16 years old. He left home, and he's a long-haired and living on nothing, and she was concerned, so he wouldn't go back. He said, no, I'm here. And eventually she came, many years later she came, and she lived there with him.
Really?
And he was with her at the death. And the ashram is really beautiful because there's a whole building dedicated to her, because she also was awakened at the end. And his place where he's buried is next to it, and it's very, very beautiful ashram. And yeah, so I've read her story too. And the place where I got this book, they have a big library there and a bookstore, and there's wonderful books. Yeah, and I've read her whole story, which is tragic. Her husband died, and she didn't have enough money to take care of her 3 sons and daughters, so half of them had to go and live with the aunts, and and then he leaves, and yeah. So yeah.
Oh, and then oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like me.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing though. I mean, I really appreciate it. And it definitely opened my eyes a little bit to to some of the lingo. I liked it. I loved the book very much.
I'm glad. Yeah. I'm glad
I think,
too.
yeah, I think I understand a little bit more now about where he's coming from. I'm a little bit more open to, look into it further.
Yeah, and he's totally, totally respected. He's probably the most respected guru in India, except for maybe
That was kind of,
ancient.
yeah. There's something there that I'm not really, the whole guru thing. Yeah, I'm not. There was a couple of things he said about that that kind of put me off a little bit, but then I realized what he meant um, by God itself, and I was
Yeah.
thinking. At first, I was thinking, you want people to look at you as God, as like a direct representative of God. And I was thinking, well,
I don't know. He was
this is
so
not gonna
humble.
this is not gonna go well. But no, that's not what he was saying.
Yeah, no,
It
no.
appeared to be initially what he was saying, but no, that's
Oh
not what he was saying.
no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
it's beautiful, man. I loved it. Yeah,
good. Good, good.
yeah, yeah. I
So
think I think he was talking far. I think he's far more close to, say, Andreas or Jim Newman or Parsons than you would initially uh, see. I mean, I think that he was just speaking to a specific. It's just that story, that's just an evolution of. But talking to modern day uh, Westerners, you know, it's very similar. The story, in essence, is the same story, that there is nothing beyond this here and now, and it's not really a here and now. You're not an individual.
right.
But he was calling immediate experience consciousness. He wasn't saying that the individual is conscious. He's saying that
Right.
experience
That
itself
everything is
is
consciousness.
right.
And the self is within that. Yeah. Right,
Right.
right.
He's kind of saying what, like Jesse was saying last week and all that, where the immediate experience is consciousness, and we just are playing within it. Uh, that's one way to say it. I mean, you could, yeah. I mean, there's definitely, yeah. I mean,
I'll have to find Longchem Pa and dig into that. But I think, a lot of these guys, in the end, negate everything. In other words, they negate everything that they said. Mr. Gadada Maharaj did that. Um, and I've been told Longchem Pa did that. I just have to find it, and I want to show it to Jesse because it's this thorn to remove a thorn analogy that I used before with you, and that's a Ramana Maharshi. So if someone tells you that awareness is fundamental or consciousness is fundamental or the ground of your being or something like that, it's only a thorn to remove the thorn
right.
of the fact that you are identified with your body, you're identified with your mind, you're
Right.
identified as a, so it's to shake you out of that.
Yeah.
But then once you realize I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm awareness. Okay, so now you're awareness. So then you take that and you can negate that, and now you see that that's bullshit.
Yeah,
Until
yeah.
there's nothing, there's nothing.
There's
Yeah.
nothing.
So, but people will jump off the so-called train, before the last stop, and think that this is it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you got to take it all the way. Like every teaching worth its salt, I believe, has to deconstruct itself and
Well,
say
he
that
even says that.
even this is not it. What I'm saying.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what he says. He likens asking who you are to a fire, throwing all your ideas into the fire. And at the end, the stick that you use to push the fire, you throw that in too. And that's the whole
Yes.
thing. That's what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And so what I'm saying is when people talk about consciousness, awareness, whatever their thing is, that they're really holding on to, like, this is what I am. This is my
Yeah.
identity.
Right.
Yeah.
Even that has to be called into question and thrown in the fire, as you say. And then you have to jump in the fire yourself until everything
Right.
is consumed by it.
Right. And if you are totally present, you don't even have that thought. You don't have a thought of who you are. I mean, if you're totally present, you're not thinking about yourself. You don't have a self. You're just there and you're nothing. You're, your presence.
Hmm.
Yeah. You're not thinking of yourself as, well, I'm watching this and I'm watching myself. After a
Right.
while, I mean, this is, yeah.
Yeah, the subject object disappears.
Right.
You know, that whole idea that you are a port in which information is traveling, it loses any sense of meaning. There's no, there's no anchor to that story anymore. So the whole thing, according to Maharshi, is consciousness. Not, you aren't conscious. There's not a
Right.
self that is
Right.
conscious.
Right.
Everything is consciousness. Now, at that point, you can, language really truly starts. I mean, all definitions are subjective. So within that context. So yeah, that there is no self-observing other. There is just
Yeah.
this, as the modern guys would say.
I know. I love, there's one quote. It says, once you have merged with the unknown, you don't have to know anything.
Right. Yeah.
I love that. You're
Yeah.
just there.
He had some good ones in there. Yeah. I got to give it to him. There's some good stuff in there, no doubt. Yeah.
I don't know if that's
Absolutely.
there or not, but that's another quote from somewhere.
Yeah. I love that understanding. Now, the funny thing is that these words that keep popping up is, I very much found it easy to read. And once you start stop hanging so much on each individual word, like, well, no, that can't be that because that means this and this means that.
Yeah.
He's kind of just painting a story here. We're kind of alluding to something, and that I found it beautiful. I mean, that's the honest truth. Yeah, there are a lot of people that have issue with, some of the vocabulary with some of these guys, and myself included. That for many years, the reason why I don't think I know about any of these guys is because I can't do the guru thing. Anybody says guru to me, I'm out, because there's no way I can consider I'm going to. I can't do that. That's not in my DNA, and to listen to somebody else try to tell me what the truth is when I personally, don't see truth as something that is viable. I can't do that. So I don't need to hear the story. And then let's see.
Guru, God, and self are one. That's another quote from him. So yeah.
Right. But now I know kind of what he's saying. And I know more about what he's talking about. It's not threatening. I'm not threatened by it. It's not like somebody's trying to get me to get into a cult, because I mean, you got to watch out. They're in California, where I grew up, for my young years, there's a lot of cults out there. There's a lot of different things out there, and you got to be careful.
You grew up in California, huh?
Oh yeah. I was born in Whittier.
Where?
LA.
Okay, I'm in San Francisco area. Yeah. So
yeah, I lived in Frisco for about a year, a little over.
So were you there during the 60s?
No, well, I was born in '68, so.
Oh. That's right. My son was born in '69, so you're just a.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Well,
Kokila. Oh, I'm sorry. Can I ask?
No, please
Kokila?
go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just curious. When did you start checking out gurus and going to India or whatever you're?
Okay, yeah, I went to India in 1974 with my 5-year-old son.
Yeah.
And that's when I actually was on the beach in Goa, just living moment to moment, because that's what you do if you're living on the beach, right? So I always think that's why whatever happened to me happened. Suddenly, I was in this wonderful, perfect place and in this perfect space, and everything was wonderful and all people were loving. And I was just in this altered state for a couple of weeks. and during that time, I conceived my daughter. My daughter was conceived by this man that was going to Pune to be with Osho, who was Bhagwan at the time. I never really knew Osho. And so I went there because I didn't know what was happening to me. And I stayed there for 4 years at the ashram and had my daughter there and everything. So
Wow.
that's when.
Wow, that's crazy.
And
Yeah.
and I was there for 4 years and then I left. And then
And
I
you,
came back to the States, and I had a very good friend who was at my daughter's birth with me. And she had gone to Oregon, and she told me about all the terrible things. And, you know, and as you know, Howard, so
Yes.
I was I had to rethink everything that I had learned because he was not my guru anymore.
right, right.
But I
Yeah.
continued going to India and have gone to listened to other masters. And I've had several that turned out not to be very good masters, and several that have been very beautiful. And yeah, so all of them have helped me to become more awake, I would say. Yeah.
Mm.
So,
I love it.
yeah.
Well, I know
Yeah,
that
it's beautiful.
you, yeah, I think Kokila, you helped me out a lot when I was struggling with telling a lot of different people, you know, about, you know, my feelings towards Osho and all of that kind of thing. And, you know, you were there for me for that, and it really helped. And I really am grateful for you.
Yeah, I was happy to see that you felt the same way, because so many people don't, you know, and I know really terrible things that I haven't even told other people. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Once you know, I had that talk with you, I was solidified in my. You know, I was
Yeah.
like, look, I can't do this. You know, I
Yeah.
because they once they get their hooks in you, you know, I mean, because they clearly wanted to take over the group almost. You know, I was like the constant Osho stuff, and I just couldn't do it. I was just. You know, I want everybody to be able to express themselves as they wish, and if they want to show gurus or whatever, you know, whatever, it's, you know, whatever you want to do. But Osho kind of was probably one of my first experiences as with a guru, like any kind of information about a guru, and that was from Oregon. You know, within that
Oh,
Oregon,
yeah.
that whole nightmare. So I was
Yeah.
just like, it just, you know, kind of turned off. But I saw UG, I think, was one of the first guys after Osho, which I thought I loved. UG was great. He blew
Yeah.
my mind as far as any kind of traditional, but he wasn't a guru really. But you know, or at
Yeah.
least he said that. What do they call him? The raging guru or something. But yeah. And then it was David Baum and Kidu uh, uh, J, uh, JK.
Krishnamurti.
Krishnamurti. And yeah, but that's about the extent of my guru knowledge.
Uh-huh.
That's all I know,
Yeah.
you know. Because but now, you know, I can see that you know, like Ramana isn't talking you know, like I thought he was talking. Now that I've read the book, I can see
Yeah.
through the
Yeah.
story itself. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
beautiful actually. It's just
Yeah.
it's
Very beautiful.
yeah.
And yeah, when he died, I think I told you, when he died, there was this great white shooting light that filled the sky. And Sri Aurobindo, who was a revolutionary and also had a huge ashram in Pondicherry, and he saw this. He was miles away, but he saw this thing happening. So yeah, very strange.
You are talking about Ramana
Yes, sir.
Maharshi?
Yes,
All
sir.
right, right.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
I don't need to say anything more about it. Other people might want to talk. And
well, Gio Kokila has bought me a book and sent it to me on Ramana, and
Yeah, well, I'm just reading Ramana. Last night, I just started reading his dialogues, and he's incredible.
yeah, he's great.
great.
He's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, no words.
Yeah, he's beautiful. Yeah, I like it. I like that. Once I realized how he was using specific words, I realized, okay, I am putting my own, my own definitions on these things, and I'm completely misunderstanding what he's saying. And so now that I've read this book, I'm definitely open to more stories from
I
Ramana.
think, he's very clear. You focus on the I thought, which is the false sense of me, right?
Mhm.
And you sort of go in a certain direction, focusing on the I thought that is the false. And suddenly you arrive at a turning point. Just before the turning point, you realize that all efforts are useless. And the last sort of before the turning point is making an effort to be effortless, right? And then you enter into a sort of a gray space, a gray level. And if you're happy to hang out, to come out from that gray space, then everything changes because you don't have to do any more efforts. It's you are being it naturally, and you sometimes slip back to illusion, but you don't have to make any more efforts to wow, who am I, where am I,
Right,
what am I?
right.
You don't have to do that anymore. I can. And he describes clearly this passage, this turning point. That's the way I see it right now.
Wow. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I actually saw a couple of similarities there between between what Andreas alludes to and himself. It's just totally different. It's a totally different uh, vocabulary, but they're saying relatively the same thing. It's pretty fun. It's fun once you get past all of the, all of the attachment to, what other people might have told you
Yeah,
it's saying. It's essentially, it's beautiful. I love it.
yeah,
It's just a
yeah,
story actually, but it's no more or less a story, any more or less a story than I tell or
yeah.
or anyone else. That it's beautiful. I love it. Yeah.
And it's so simple, so clear. I mean, no complete, because if you go to study Buddhism, it can get so complicated.
Yeah.
So it's like almost like walking in a maze. It can get very complicated. And I have often seen people who get sort of, I think they get lost in all that complication. And when you read Ramana, it's so simple. I mean,
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. I actually, he was saying, there was a couple of places in there where I could have put some of like my pointer, my, yeah, he's saying the exact same thing, and I just, it's definitely, Kokila, definitely a lesson to me in so far as, investigating some of this stuff myself before, I make any kind of judgment. Um, and
yeah, I know.
yeah,
I know, Howard, because he talks about the self with a capital S, right?
yeah, yeah,
But you see, that's just a word
yeah,
for what is actually happening right here and now.
right,
You don't have to give it a name, or
right,
you can invent any other name for it.
yeah,
It's just what's happening here without the mind interfering.
yes,
He calls it self. You can call it whatever you want on
Right.
you, but what I sometimes feel strange in the Buddhist approach is that they negate completely, or perhaps not, perhaps just my interpretation. I don't want to go into judgments about uh,
I know very little about Buddhism, but the Buddhists that I have been speaking to, essentially, a lot of that has to do with practicality insofar as living a peaceful life,
Come
something like
in.
that. There's
No, well,
All right,
that
Howard, I've got to get off now and take care of my little grandchildren. So it's been wonderful talking with you, everyone. Nice to see you again, Walter, Gio, and Rajiv.
thank you
nice
so
to
much.
see you.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much, Kokila.
Have a nice
Okay.
day.
Thank you, Kokila.
Thank you.
Please continue, Gio.
I don't know where I stopped.
Oh, well, I think I interrupted you a little bit. I was talking about, well, see, I don't know much about Buddhism other than,
Oh,
it,
yeah. Yeah.
What
No,
kind of Buddhism?
yeah, exactly.
Mahayana? What? Yeah, like Zen? What are we talking?
yeah, I am more inclined when I read Zen, I'm 100% in agreement. When I read Chan, the Chinese Zen, I am 100% in agreement. When I read the Tibetan Zen, and I read what's his name? I forgot his name.
The
I am
Dalai
also
Lama?
who?
The Dalai Lama?
No. The name Rabjam, Longshan Rabjam, Longshenpa,
Oh, Longchenpa, yeah.
Longshenpa. I
Yeah, nobody
totally,
ever likes anyone that's still alive, it seems.
oh no.
Like, for example, Thich Nhat Hanh, you know,
I like him.
you do like Thich Nhat Hanh?
Yeah. But there are certain in the line of Tibetan Buddhism, sometimes I feel it's too much repetition, it's almost like one guru repeating what the other said, but then again, it might be just my interpretation, we are not talking about teachings, right? We are talking what we are. We are talking about what's happening here right now. Teachings are just skillful means to show something, right? And what is that something? It's this that's happening here right now.
Well said, Gio.
Yeah, what else? What else? Anything else is just my invention of the mind. Oh, there is something wonderful there in Tibet and in the top of the Himalayas. It's just imagination. It's somewhere else. What? It's happening it's all happening here, right? Where each of us is right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's not a teacher in another place or another time. It's actually the appearance of that emerging in this here and now.
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't want to speak on I don't want to speak on too much on Buddhism. I don't really know, too much about it.
Yeah, I don't know either very much. No.
Um,
Oh, I have read several things from Buddha himself. Oh my man, it's wonderful. It's incredible. But I'm talking more about disciples, followers that sort of fall into strange, a kind of a negation path. Anything you say, anything you affirm, they say, no, that's a view. No, that's a view. Buddha said that you mustn't have a view. No, that's a view. It's not all about negation. There is an affirmation, and they negate completely. I'm not talking about Sakyamuni Buddha, of course. I'm talking about some folks that have read his books and some folks that follow seemingly, and they enter into this negation path, negating everything. It becomes very strange to me.
Walter, I think you were
So,
talking about this in the beginning, weren't you?
oh yeah, no, I mean, to me, I'm glad you brought that up because I feel like I might be one of those people.
Yeah.
One of
So when
those
you
what?
say, well, I'm all about negation.
Oh, well, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I'm pretty sure that it's can be just a matter of words, of nomenclature. Let's talk about it.
Let's
I
talk
mean,
about, like netty. Not
yeah,
this, not this, not
yeah,
this, not that,
yeah,
not this, not
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
That was the most powerful teaching I found because
Yeah, me too.
I kept wanting to have something I could call my own, something I could depend on that was real, and I couldn't find it. So you said affirmation. So what is it that can be affirmed?
First of all, I totally resonate with the neti approach. Totally.
Mhm.
Because we are talking about seekers, right? When a seeker starts, like you said, he wants to find something that is fixed, something that is himself, something that is genuine, right? When he starts off, he he must negate what is not. What Because we are all identified with this body, with this mind, right? So we must, the neti pass is a pass where you look at that stuff that you have been identified, and you must negate that because you were reclused, you were confined into a restricted area, which was your body and your mind. So the best approach is to negate that as a starting point, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you negate, I am not my feelings, I am not my thoughts, I am not my body, I am not my sensations. And of course, then there comes a point when you say, well, then who is saying that? Who is negating that, right? And as I see it, as it happened, as I feel that it can happen, is that you come to a point where actually you identify all mind movements. Anything that you affirm, anything that you negate, anything that you seek for, anything that you suppose that is seeking, all of those are just mind games, are just thoughts. What are you left with? You are left with this timeless presence that is not of time. And Buddhists choose not to name it, not to point to it, not to refer to it in any way. They say, you find out and shut up, right?
Mhm.
Now, this is my take.
I know. I like everything you're saying. I'm following you.
I'm warmed up. So yes, I see neti as a skillful means, not as an end. I mean, you cannot, I think it would be very strange to end up in a place where you are just negating.
Mm.
I mean, there is this light, isn't it?
It's a what?
Light,
Light.
light. There is, I mean, we can invent any names for it, but
Oh,
there is,
consciousness, awareness. Is that what you
yes,
mean?
yeah, some people call it consciousness, some people call it awareness, you know. In Buddhist terms, you cannot call it consciousness because in Buddhist terms, consciousness is the conditioned aspect of what is. So in Buddhist language, you cannot say that it is consciousness. because in Buddhist terms, you have the eye consciousness, the ear consciousness, the nose consciousness, the mouth consciousness, mind consciousness. Those are conditioned aspects, right? So you cannot say that this presence here is consciousness. In Buddhist terms, it just doesn't work because they don't name it. Although
I
they
guess
talk,
sorry, I was just gonna say the furthest I seem to be able to go is just to say that there does seem to be a presence, this cognizing emptiness, if you will. I think that's kind of Buddhist for you, if you like that, cognizing emptiness. But I don't know what that is. And I also don't think it's personal. It's an impersonal presence that I can't describe. And I feel like that's the end of the, that's it. That's as far as I can go. And as far as I can see, it's as far as anyone else can go.
yeah,
Don't you think?
I
Because
think so.
because I don't agree with, for me personally, it doesn't resonate to say I am awareness.
Yeah,
I
I
say
find
that there seems to be an awareness, but I don't know what that is. And it's not mine.
yeah, it's strange.
But that's that's the wall. That's as far as getting into describing this and talking about it, I can't go any further.
I don't like the word awareness either because awareness also implies somehow awareness of something. I mean, then you have awareness and then you have awareness of something else. It becomes like subject, object, some stuff, But
We were talking last week about this. It seems like there's something on. We were using that phrase, that
yeah,
there's something, the lights are on.
yeah,
But you said light, that it's almost like the scientists talk about the hard problem of consciousness. Even the most brilliant minds can't seem to go really beyond the fact that there's something happening here,
yeah,
apparently,
yeah.
but nobody knows what it is.
Well,
Yeah,
I think that has something to do with the fact that there is no off that we can there is no off that we can refer to,
Right.
so really on loses its definition because it has no negation. So the only thing that we could say is off would be the individual self
yes,
consciously coming up with a story about
yes,
something that doesn't exist. So it's just there is no on or off. It just
no.
is, and it can't be. But that would be just my take. That's just where I got from last week.
No, these are just skillful means, are words, we are using words to convey something that is absolutely undescribable,
Yeah.
right? But I have recently come to this point, this turning point I was referring to before, that anything that we come up with is just the mind playing games,
Agreed.
right? But that doesn't mean
That it's your mind.
that too, but that doesn't mean that we are negating everything. We are seeing through the movement of the mind. Nonetheless, we are being as the totality of all this.
Yeah. It's everything and nothing
Everything and
simultaneously.
nothing.
It's
Yeah.
everything and nothing simultaneously, because essentially you lose everything insofar as a quantifiable self, but then everything appears as it is beautiful. It's not what it appears as objects in time and space and
Yeah.
separation. though it appears that way, and enjoy it. It's beautiful. There's no tether to anything. It
Yep.
literally is freeing in that respect. But at the same time, paradoxically, as we can't speak of it because it's not dualistic, so, and words are
Yep.
dualistic, so we have to assume these points in time and space that are communicating information when we're saying the very opposite of that is actually happening. So it appears as individuals talking in time and space, but it is actually just the story of that. But that goes for everything. Everything is nothing, just as it is, just immaculate, beautiful. It's perfect in every way. It can't be any other way.
Yeah.
So it literally is just beyond words beautiful. And the what makes it so to me is that there's no solid foundation. And so, however, any guru wants to talk about it, any Buddhist or anybody wants to talk about that, is beautiful. I mean, we were talking about, the confining nature of some people that just want to negate folks all the time. I just want to negate what other people say. And it's like, man, really, we're all just, we're just, none of this means anything. It literally is like birds chirping in trees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Suddenly, yeah, yeah.
It's beautiful,
Suddenly you
Yeah.
come to recognize the tiniest movement of thought.
Yeah.
And you recognize that those tiniest movements of thought is what sucks you into confusion.
Yes.
So before, when you are getting close to this perception, you begin to understand that thoughts are confusing and they are sucking you into the turmoil. And suddenly you come to the other side, like, and you see, yeah, of course. I mean, all these attempts, all these things that we are trying to do, it's just thought playing games, and suddenly thinking the thought movement loses importance.
Yes, there you go. Yes. Yes, I absolutely agree. I was thinking the same thing as you're speaking. Thoughts to me, once they have lost their tether to the self, okay, and that whole subject, object, and brain correlating into a consciousness, and self and other, and all of that stuff is simply a story. So what you have is this beautiful appearance of ideas and thoughts and knowledge and experience, and all of it is essentially just fountains of story. It's cascading ideas of nothing to nowhere, but beautiful in their own right, because they have no, they don't need a validity. They don't need a tether. They don't need a foundation. It's literally beautiful because it has no, story attached to it. It doesn't need
Yeah.
one.
And
It
doesn't
just
need one.
is. It doesn't need
Yeah.
one. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I am talking about when I speak of thought movement, I am talking about the thought movement of Geo here, right?
Yes.
And usually the thought movement of Geo is trying to find a ground. The thought movement of Geo is always trying to define a big self, something that is continuous, something that
Source.
that Geo can hold on to. And suddenly I realized that it's ridiculous. It's just that little thought playing games. You don't need that. You don't need that. You just open your eyes and here it is. I mean, what do you need those thoughts for, right?
Yeah, the most beautiful thing for me, I think is once I get caught up in thinking that I know something, okay, I'm figuring this out, I know something. Well, that's when you're getting caught up in the story
Yeah.
of self another. You think you can actually know something is the story, you know, but it doesn't have to be even that complicated. It's just, it's not, you know, it literally is not you thinking. It is not knowledge as knowledge is traditionally understood. So, you know, in that respect,
it's just a noise.
beautiful.
It's just a noise.
Yeah.
It's just a noise that sometimes comes up like a fountain,
Yeah.
makes some sense, and then it disappears, and then another one, like you said. It's, you know,
And it doesn't have to be a meaning or a purpose. It doesn't have
no,
to be from anything or for anything. So if you find yourself, you know, in the story, thinking in the story, it does. So what? You know, that's just part of the, you know, the appearance of what is. And there's no, you don't have to be, you know, so stringent. You know, so all of a sudden, yeah,
yeah. This is something that I have to still look after, because I get very upset when I seemingly get caught in the turmoil of the hurricane. You know,
yeah,
I have a difficulty to accept that as something that must not be uh, fighting fight against. Still, but I'm, you know, as Paul Hederman says, I'm traveling lighter, lighter, and as you travel lighter, you become lighter and lighter, and as you become lighter, you become still
yeah,
still lighter. The more lighter you become, the lighter you become.
yeah, man. It, yeah, it's beautiful. I really, yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And I think this all ties into what Walter was saying in the beginning when we were talking about, um, you know, does this stuff can something be positive or negative or what have you. Personally, you know, to me, it doesn't because it doesn't have to be anything. It simply is more beautiful. It simply is lighter. It simply is lighter because it doesn't mean anything. So you literally, you know, I just naturally want people to feel good. You know, I mean, I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's not real. It's not like I'm doing something, but to have your environment
Yeah,
lighter is not a bad, you know, come on. It's there's nothing more beautiful, and it just kind of happens. You don't, you know, I don't need to make sure you understand what I mean. You know, that doesn't mean anything anymore. It's more important that you are comfortable and happy and, you know, feeling good. You know, that you are well and everything is calm and nice and peaceful if that's what you want. And if you don't want that, I feel sure you can find whatever turmoil you like anywhere you want
right, man. Right. That's
to go.
that's a good lesson. It should be called Lesson for Jill.
That well, I mean, I was speaking in terms for myself. I'm saying,
Yeah,
you know,
but it works
yeah,
for myself. It works for me.
yeah. It literally is what Walter and I were talking about in the beginning. He started the interview with this very subject that I think Kokila brought up as well, and is that it just kind of, you know, it doesn't have to be one thing or another. It just kind of turns into something of, you know what, it doesn't have to be anything at all.
Anything at all.
No, it doesn't have to be anything. You don't have to do anything. You're not doing anything. That's the beauty of
Yeah, yeah, and
it.
that's what I wanted to say as I came into the room. That when you get to a certain point, right before that what I'm calling a turning point, you know that making efforts and making things to be like this or like that, it's ridiculous. But then you are caught in making efforts to be effortless,
Right.
right? Right. And somehow if you manage to come out on the other side, you see, well, I don't have to do anything. Even I don't even have to not do anything, you know. There's nothing,
Yeah.
nothing to do. I mean, what else do you want? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. It really is that simple. In the end, the lack of a tether really makes it, it just makes it beautiful. It now all of a sudden I can enjoy, you know, enjoy the thoughts, and even the storm, as you were saying, the storm that comes and goes. I mean, I get caught up too. I'm in a lot of, get physically, I get caught up in the pains and stuff like that. And it's easy to get caught up in the story. But that's just part of it. That's just part of the,
Yeah,
you know.
and yeah, you lose it. It lessens the importance, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
before, a long time ago, anything could be so important. Wow, that happened. That other did not happen as I wanted. Wow. And yeah, and suddenly all those stuff loses the grip, the importance, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
Something else becomes more important, something that you don't have to seek because it's always there.
Yeah.
Not that it is something,
Yeah.
right? We are
Yeah.
not trying to define it.
Right.
It's obvious. It's too obvious to
Yeah. Well, it's like I believe uh, Andreas Mueller was saying the other day. Um, it's not conceptual. I mean, in that, this is just the way it is. It's not that there's a person thinking in terms of concept, and or there's a subjective objective. None of that is actual. There is no one thinking, and therefore no concept. And so it is just the way it is. And so once you lose that tether to the conceptual self, as we appear to be conceptual selves, but that is just the story of individuals that can conceive of something. So it literally is the appearance of people thinking, and talking and exchanging information. That to me, um, is it starts getting really fun because at that, as Andreas was saying, it's completely natural that it is and is not happening simultaneously. It is and is not real simultaneously. And so it doesn't really even need to be understood or known or said or anything like that. If you've never had that glimpse, paradoxically speaking, if it's never, crossed your way, there's no need to even worry about it. It means nothing. So, in that respect, it's just such a weight lifted off, in that there really is nothing that needs to be done, nothing that needs to be said, nothing that needs to be understood. From that point, anytime you get confused, like you were saying, Gio, anytime you get confused, you're confused because you think you're thinking, you think you're in separation, you think. So the thoughts that come, and the confusion starts in the illusion that you can know something in the first place. And so just to allow that to just be the fountain of the story. It's truly, it's an easy
yeah,
place. It's an easy place
yeah,
to
yeah.
be.
You exchange, you swap knowing for being.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And in being, and then if you want to get into the technical, being is not
Nah,
being. If you want to get into all of the actualities of, what, if you want to try to talk about the intricacies of the hardcore non-duality, yes, being not being is the appearance of us here. So, but that doesn't necessarily, none of that has to be, even addressed. It's simply being. It appears to be guys being within the parameters of this dimension. And
Yeah.
therein lies that's, therein lies the whole thing. It's just unbelievably fascinating, beautiful. I, you know, I don't know about you guys, but I couldn't think of a better paradox in which to find myself. I find it's just amazing to me. I love it.
Maybe that's exactly why it is as it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a brilliant point. I mean, has it ever occurred to you as within the parameters of the story, you get caught up in it, and the next thing you know, is it that I love this so much that it appears this way? Or is it that, it's just is what I love? You know what I mean? I mean, it's literally that perfect, you know? So yeah, that story can come up too.
No, but perfection has always been here. Perfection has always been here. It is the non-perfection that keeps coming up, right? And you
Right.
see through that. You don't have to analyze perfection. Perfection is what has always been, ever been.
Mhm.
It has never gone to sleep. It has never been born. It will never die. Perfection. It is unperfection that sometimes arises. And I came to realize that
Yeah.
it's just the mind movement, thinking, trying
Yeah.
to figure out, seeking, searching, trying to be right, lamenting for being wrong,
Hmm.
judging the wrongness of others,
Yeah.
admiring and being jealous of the rightness of others. All those stories are crazy.
Yeah.
Oh,
As if we have any kind of claim onto what is,
yeah.
or is, what I mean? It's literally, it's ridiculous to hold that position. But I can get caught up in it with people, say on Facebook or whatever. I've got some regular people that I talk to that no matter what I say, they negate me, and that's fine to a point, but it gets a little frustrating. And then I'll find but the less I put into it, as far as um, if I get frustrated, I realize, okay, now I'm getting caught up in the story now because they're not allowing me to go with my flow. So I just stop right
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
stop.
yeah, right, right. But the very that stopping is the key, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
you stop,
yeah,
but you don't go this way or that way.
right.
I shouldn't have stopped. I
Yeah.
should have. No, you just stop. You stop, and the bursting of all those stories just stop also, right?
Right.
You 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 find yourself at the place that has ever been there without any stories.
Yes.
It, is there such a place? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
this is that place
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It is and it isn't. It's that beautiful. It's that, yeah.
What other place there could there be?
Right. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm going to look for this place over there.
At first we would have to be able to lay claim that this is a place, an objective
Yeah,
place that is relative to another position, and we can't do that. So, and in that way, this is not a thing because it's not two. So there's not another object in which to make this relative. It's
no,
not. Yeah, it's not one because one needs two. So
yeah,
it's not two because there's not another. And and that is just amazing. And you know it's not infinite or finite, but it could be considered as such simply because you cannot explain this moment in 1,000 years. So though this moment appears finite, for in a million years, you couldn't explain everything that was going on right here, right now. There's no way to. So
No,
in that way, it is
and,
both infinite and finite.
yeah, and also a million years from now, this moment will not be different.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so beautiful.
Yeah,
I mean,
how, just saying. Você está falando muito alto. Ah, tá bom, tá bom. Ok.
how about you, Walter? You got anything to add to this? Oh, it might be.
Sorry. No, I was
Okay.
just doing laundry, listening to you guys. It's just
I love
doing
that.
my laundry. No, I love what you guys are saying, man. It's great.
Yeah.
I can only say I agree. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's funny. I
So
thought for a second, yeah, we weren't, but yeah, I mean everything is spot on as far as I can see.
it's
So
beautiful, man.
yeah, I just love hearing it.
I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that you guys are here, man. This is amazing. I you know, and I love that we're in this place where it's so, so beautiful and obvious and pleasant. It's not yeah, I couldn't ask for a better situation.
Right.
I'm grateful, man.
Yeah, I feel like we always get to the same kind of place,
Yeah,
in these discussions.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. In the end, it's always the same.
I think it has a lot to do with I mean, there's going to be people that come and go or whatever, hopefully, anyways, from time to time. It depends on who comes and what their ideas are, what their questions are, anything like that. But yeah, there's from this perspective, anything can come and it's welcome. It's I can imagine any number of questions right now that could be answered fairly well from any one of the three of us.
And sometimes it's hard to find a question.
Yeah. Man, it's amazing. Yeah. Yeah, I was actually surprised a little bit. I mean, I'm giving a lot of leeway to the Ramana stuff, but because I honestly think that I think I understand what he's saying, and it's not what it's not.
Just a second, Howard. What
Yeah.
leeway means?
Well, a little leeway. I mean, he had to use certain vocabularies that
Ah,
but like with myself, I have to give myself leeways with what I'm saying as well. But
okay.
I had to, but it's not like it's just not the. I think ultimately what I took from the book was he's very much in the same spot that we're talking about
Same
right here,
spot,
right now.
man.
Same
It's the
thing.
same spot.
Yeah, very
The
much.
thing, the thing is that people, his students ask him questions, so he's obliged to answer,
Yes.
and it gives the impression that he has some kind of a claim. He does not have, he simplifies it. He says it's self, okay, the big self.
Mhm.
No
Yeah.
problem with that. I don't have any more problems with that. I used to
Right.
have, but I don't have it anymore.
Yeah, he's just telling a story that was comfortable for him and that people resonated with, and it's very for me, like you said, it's extreme, it's simple, it's easy, it's good, it makes sense to in a lot of ways. I think there might have been a time where I probably would have rejected it right off the bat simply because of the vocabulary. But because now I understand that the vocabulary, just because he's using a word that I might use in another way, doesn't mean that he uses it in the same way. So now that I can see through that, I get it. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, I can totally see how, you know.
Yeah, I am new to Ramana. More or less like you. I read him many years ago, and then I said, well, he's okay, but I didn't listen to it very much. And as a coincidence, I started to read his book 2 days ago.
Mm.
2 days ago, I started to read, and now I totally agree 100% because, I don't know.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's essentially, from what I'm gathering, things that I've maybe neglected or that I just tossed away in the past. Um, I'm starting to see that they're, the various different pointers for basically the same, they're trying to say the same thing, just in different ways. Everybody's got their own like
Yeah,
unique way of saying it.
I just realized that he was the one who brought up the idea of the screen and the movies.
Ah,
I
okay.
think he was the one because
Yeah.
the book I'm reading is from maybe 1930, so it was the beginning of the movies, and so people might say, "Oh man, but are you affirming that there is a screen?" No, man, he's just making an analogy. He's
Right.
making an analogy to show that the stories are not other. There is no sense of otherness for the stories that may happen, right? So
Yeah.
he calls it a screen, but he is not saying that there is a screen, that there is something definable.
Right. Yeah, it's the same. It's same with the story, the book analogy that I use every now and again, or there's any number of ways you can allude to these things or to this thinglessness, but it's impossible to articulate specifically.
Yeah,
There's no way. So yeah, I imagine it's just it's painting a picture. It's
right.
it's really actually beautiful, man.
Yeah, but if you ask 200 people to paint something,
Yeah.
each one will paint it differently,
Yes.
right? Each one, it's an art. The moment you try to express this, you become an artist.
Right. Oh, I love that. I love also the the moment. I think I can't remember who said it. I imagine many teachers have said it, but or speakers or whatever you want to call them. The moment that you actually worry about what other might actually think about what you're saying, well, now you're wrong.
Oh, yeah,
you're well now.
for
I
sure.
mean, well now you're. It's just now you're caught up in the story of wrong and right, all of this kind of thing.
Yeah, man. And if going back to Ramana, every other page he says, well, but actually there is none here. There
There's
is
nothing
nobody.
here.
I'm
Yeah,
not teaching anyone because
yeah,
I don't see anybody else.
yeah.
So from these words, you realize that he knows what he's talking about. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah. I mean, the modern day guys, from now, the guys that are talking about this stuff nowadays, what they call nouveau non-duality, which is an oxymoron,
yeah,
but you,
new,
yeah,
new,
yeah,
new, new
yeah,
non-duality. Yeah.
as
New
opposed to,
Advaita.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, which is a complete oxymoron, but so is pretty much everything. But in any case, he's when like in the story of 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now, people can look back and look at it like that. Look at it as somebody that might be alive in 1,000 years, looking back on what some of the more popular guys are saying nowadays, and they will attach the same kind of, they will have the same kind of, you know, inability to identify with those stories because they're,
Or
you know,
not,
or not
or not,
like,
yeah, or they will agree
exactly,
completely.
exactly. So it you know, you have some speakers that say, well, you know, they completely turned off by that stuff,
Oh
and then
yeah,
other
man.
speakers,
And man, if you sometimes I read these old guys from, I don't know, 3,000 years ago, and I and I realize that they are saying the same thing that we are saying here. It drives
well,
me crazy.
they are. That's the thing. They didn't live 3,000 years ago. They literally are emerging now within this experience of
Yeah, yeah,
us
of course,
having
of
a
course.
yeah, you know, yeah,
Yeah,
and that's the beauty of it. It's like the guys in 1,000 years
yeah.
only exist within this immediate
This
experience.
and
So
this, yeah.
yeah, so I mean, so however you want to imagine a
Yeah.
human being would be thinking in 1,000 years, that's how they will. I mean, that's this now. So it's so it's perfect. The memory of something that has already happened, and the imagination of something to be, is both here now, emerging. You know, in this, you know, as this
Oh
story.
man, that's a spoiler. You are spoiling the you are spoiling the story, man. It was so beautiful. I was dreaming with these old guys, sages, 3,000 years ago, and now you have spoiled everything.
It's just it's so beautiful. You can't. It's you just can't.
We all meet in this moment, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I had to be honest with you. I was when I got the book, I thought, oh, you know,
Which book?
yeah. Oh, it's I'm trying to look for it.
No, I mean, who wrote?
Something about it's the Ramana
Yeah,
book
right,
that
right,
Koki.
right, right. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
it's something that had on the title
I know.
had something
Okay.
I'm with you, the Lord, or something like
Right,
this.
right, right,
And
right.
I was like, oh my gosh, you know, this is going to be painful. But
Yeah.
as I started, as I started reading it, I realized, you know, that's not at all what he was saying.
No.
And, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Okay, this is beautiful because he's actually, you know, what a seeker might actually look for in a god, or in,
Yeah,
you
he's
know what I mean?
talking. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's talking to specific people, right?
right,
He's talking to most of the time he's talking to very simple folks.
right,
So he
right,
has to use simple language.
right,
Sometimes he's talking to more sophisticated people, and
right.
he uses a different language, and you know,
Yeah,
uh, he's talking about the same thing we are talking here.
yeah, it's you know, and for me that actually, uh, you know, I feel better, a little bit better now because you know, there, I don't know how to say this, but you know, there's a tension, you know, like a tension, it seems, between the new
when you
guys and the old
when you
guys.
when you say that you don't understand someone that seemingly you should understand, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Something inside of us says, no man, this guy is really smart, but I don't
yeah,
agree with him, and
yeah,
that creates a tension, right?
yeah.
And suddenly you say, oh no man, I think now I understand what he's saying. He's
Mm,
cool. Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah.
went through the same thing.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, now you know it's for example, the whole idea of a guru is for me off-putting.
Yeah, but you
But
see, Ramana says that you don't need a guru.
right,
He's
right,
the one that says you don't need a guru at all.
right.
I mean, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the beauty. But he also says, he also defines, he defines guru, and he says, you know, guru, self, God, and all this stuff. But what he's saying is essentially there is no guru,
Of
self, or
course.
God. Yeah, so all of it. So it basically, he's using the words against the, you know, it's just amazing. It's
Yeah,
absolutely
because
brilliant.
he's addressing people in India, very simple people, and a few folks that started to arrive from Europe. and he had to adapt his language appropriately.
Right. Trying to. Oh, here it is. Found it. Here it is. Excuse me. Heart is thy name, O Lord. Sri Ramana Maharshi or Maharshi, excuse me.
Mm.
Moments of silence. And see, that's beautiful too. He's saying moments of silence, but it's the book. So it's the same thing I've always said. It's like the noise and the silence are literally the same thing. And I think that's what he means. Moments of silence would not mean read this book.
Yeah,
know,
sometimes I was reading yesterday, and he says things like, the self is there between two thoughts. That sounded very strange to me,
right.
But then I said, well, who knows to whom he was talking, whom he was addressing. So maybe he had to use this idea of space between two thoughts.
Well, here's a good one too. The self is here and now alone, comma, and alone. The self is here and now, comma, and alone. Now you could read that many, many ways.
I
You know,
totally get it.
yeah, yeah. You can read that a lot of ways.
I mean, Howard,
Yeah.
where or when else or where else realization can happen if not right here where we are looking at the screen at each other?
Right. Well, like this one, the feeling I work is the hindrance. Ask yourself who works. Yeah, it's brilliant. All right. This will happen again. What is
No,
destined?
but
to
when
happen?
he says, ask yourself who is working, he's talking about the I thought, the false I.
Yeah.
You must be
Yes.
careful. When he says, ask yourself who is working, he's addressing the false I, the I thought.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He's got it
No,
in quotation marks. Yeah. So it's like so leave it. So here's an interesting thing. See, now this is something that at
go
one
ahead.
point would have totally just I would have said I would have thrown the book out the window.
Okay, go
But
ahead.
so leave it to the higher power, semicolon. Um, you cannot renounce or retain as you choose. Now, now this is funny to me. The higher power, okay, I don't think he's talking about a god. He's talking about immediate experience and the lack of cause or effect of it.
Yeah,
You cannot renounce or retain as you choose. Well, I think he's talking about the lack of free will and how that doesn't have anything to do with anything. And I mean, it's the
he's
exact opposite of what somebody would think a higher power than
yeah,
itself would be.
he's very clear about this. He says, when there is individuality, there is free will. When there is no individuality, there is no free will.
Right.
These are
Right.
his words.
Yeah. Yeah. That you cannot have free will. I mean, at least from my perspective, the way I see it in the story, you cannot have free will because you have no source for your thought. And if you don't know that you're actually doing something, you cannot know. And on top of that, there's a million different ways to show that free will doesn't exist. But like what but I do understand what he's saying, and I agree. And he said that's just a beautiful way to say it.
Yeah, as long as you consider yourself a body,
Right.
the body starts doing things and you say, oh, I'm doing things,
I'm doing this. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because you are identified with the body.
Yeah.
This is what he keeps saying in every second page.
And this is really essentially the same thing the guys are saying nowadays, just with different language. It really is.
Yeah,
You know,
sure.
all letters in this book add up to a single imperishable letter. The single letter shines forward of its own accord within the heart. Who can hope to write it? And that's his last words on this. Who can hope to write it? And it's just beautiful. It's, nobody wrote it. Where will I go and where can I go? Which was his eye. He always wanted to. Yeah. And he explains some of the in this book here, Geo, that he explains. I don't know if you've ever seen this one. Let me see
No.
if I can't get it. Let me see here. If I can't get it in the screen. I gotta get the glare off of this thing. But in any case, let's see, where is it? There it is.
All right.
Yeah. So here it is. So
That heart is the name.
heart is the name or something.
Oh,
Yeah,
Lord.
heart is thy name, O Lord. And that is not something that I would buy. That is definitely not something I would buy. But now that
Oh,
I've read,
I
but now
do.
that I've read it, I see what he's talking about. Yeah.
Of course, man. When you start laughing and say that you love what is happening, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You're being the joyful heart.
Right. And he's constantly saying these words don't exist. What is on this page is not real, but it's a story about it, and he's essentially saying the exact same thing. And
Yeah.
it's no karma attaches. God has
And
no resolve, no karma attaches itself to him, like worldly
yes.
actions do not affect the sun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I think he's talking about the immediate experience and then the apparency of this here
Yeah.
and now. Yeah.
Of course.
Mm.
And let us not forget, Howard, that half of his teachings were in silence.
Mm.
I mean,
Yes.
when you read the book, you suppose that he talked a lot. No, half of his teachings were in absolute silence.
Really.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah, that's much like the Buddha. I would guess. I would imagine. I mean, at least that's the story that I hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's fascinating stuff. Um, so yeah, but the funny thing is that a lot of people that read this stuff will literally think he's talking about God. He's talking about a
Oh,
God, a
yeah.
deity. I mean, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
Well,
they just like this. Who then is God? The witness of the mind. Okay, let me see. Who then is God? Question mark. The witness of the mind. Period. My mind is witnessed by myself, comma, the
yeah.
soul. So you are God. There is
Yeah.
but one.
Yeah. Because, okay, go ahead.
Well, there is but one God, witness of all, hidden in all creation, absolute, pervading all, the inner self of all. See, the funny thing about that is he's saying it's both inner and outer. See, there is but one God within, witness of all, hidden in all creation, absolute, pervading all. He's saying everything outside, and then the inner self of all, everything inside. So what he's saying is, there is no inside or outside. I mean, it's just how you can see it. He's saying there is no inside or outside, and that
Yeah.
is
Because,
the appearance of a deity or appearance of God.
yes, because half of the people that would look after him
Right.
believes in God.
Yeah.
So he has to use the language of the people that he's addressing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's using God as immediate experience. He's using God,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he's saying things
Yeah.
like consciousness as this here and now. I mean,
I
he's
don't
not. Yeah,
I don't like the word God either. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
I don't like, but it's
yeah.
you just make a quick translation in
Yeah.
your
Well,
mind.
once you get past that, and once you understand what
Yeah.
he's saying, then
Yeah.
okay. The odd thing about it is that a lot of this kind of language is the kind of thing that would turn me away, um,
Yeah. Me
in
too.
many instances. But in this case, it's kind of helped me kind of okay. So it's not that he's saying this; it's the way people understand it. It's not that he's saying, I mean, actually, what he's saying does, if you take it into that context that we've been referring to, you can actually see that it,
Is
yeah.
this book that you are reading is in the form of a dialogue or it's a teaching?
Oh, it's a teaching. He's
Uh,
just, yeah, it's not a dialogue. It's actually just, I think several different of his more famous comments or
okay.
something. And,
The one
but,
that I'm reading is in the form of a dialogue,
oh, is it?
questions and answers.
That's good stuff. Yeah,
You
it's
can
not like, I'm
you
sorry, go ahead,
can
please.
you can download all these books for free, if you want me to send you, I can send you in PDF. I don't know what you can do with that.
Nah, I'll listen to it in the, I prefer listening to it in links.
Oh, well, yesterday I was looking in Google. You look audiobooks Maharshi.
Okay,
There is lots, several
okay.
hours of reading, of beautiful readings of Maharshi's book.
Well, yeah, why not? I mean, there's not, yeah, I mean, I could look, the reason why I would do it is to just to be able to have a discussion with somebody about it. If somebody was resonating with him and wanted to talk to me about something,
Yeah.
I could at least resonate with that.
Yeah.
That always sounds like a door knock, but it's not. But yeah, but I'm pretty sure, I think we're talking the same language, just with different words.
Yes.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one obstacle is the mind. It must get. You got over the.
It's not so difficult. I mean, we are not geniuses here. We
Yeah,
are just
yeah,
normal people. So, there are lots of other usual normal people that understands this,
yeah.
and not understands that there is no way to understand.
Yeah, yeah, and it's also the most simple thing, even in terms of self and other, and just thinking about it, it
It's the
is so simple.
it's the essence of simplicity. There is
It-
nothing more
yeah,
simple.
it's so simple. The mind cannot, you know,
Yeah,
accept it
yeah,
because because
yeah,
it's the death of
yeah,
the individual. So
yeah.
the individual mind suddenly becomes obsolete insofar as a
That's right.
source for some kind. It's not no longer important. Um, and yeah, so it's everything against what the mind wants you to
Yeah,
know or think, because you literally lose, the mind loses its position
yeah,
insofar as as an individual.
yeah.
And yeah, the-
It's such a deep groove that the mind has been walking in, for
yeah,
such a long time.
right.
It's not just, you know, it's ingrained. If we consider time, for millennia,
Mhm,
it's in our DNA
mhm,
to survive. To
right.
survive,
Yeah,
we need, the mind thinks that it needs to survive in order not to die,
right.
to exist, to be a self, a separate self, to be somebody, someone.
Yeah. And in reality, we're talking about things that mean anything. I mean things that really, what else? What could be more beautiful than getting a smile out of somebody, just feeling happy, just getting a smile out of another appearance of a person, without, there's no necessity to all of this is, everybody already understands this, so why not just
Yeah,
for its own sake,
that's
be
that's a good
be,
lesson.
be yeah, be
That's
nice.
again Gio's lesson. Yeah,
Yeah, it's just
chapter
it's just beautiful.
chapter 2 for Gio.
Well, it's me too. I mean, I've been kind of shutting this guy down a little bit, but
Oh
he
man, I
yeah,
used to love discussions. I used to love being right, man.
yeah, yeah,
I was crazy. Oh
yeah.
man,
Have to be right.
I had to be right. I had to be right every
Yeah,
time, all the time with everybody. Oh,
yeah, yeah. And the funny thing is that the more you have that necessity, the more people will recoil and fight and push back.
of
And
course.
yeah, so
Yeah,
the more you don't care so much to have to do that, the more intriguing it is, the more people come. and or the more people come back to you and ask, well, why are you so happy, or whatever it is. And I mean, it's there's no way to answer that, you know. And then you end up talking, and somebody's like dogging you, so somebody's making you sound like, oh, that guy's full of it, that guy's saying this and that, and it's true. Nothing any of us say has any kind of relevance. So yeah. So whether you want to call it God or not God or any of that stuff is completely irrelevant. Mm.
Howard, can
Yes.
do you walk? Can you walk?
I can, but not very far. Yeah, I can get to the bathroom and back. Yeah, that's about
And
it. I don't. Yeah, I have to lay out.
your problem is in the back, your back.
Yeah, there's back, shoulders, legs,
Mm.
feet, everything. It's pretty bad situation. I had to lay on my left side, and 99% of the time I'm laying on my left side, and that's pretty much the only place I feel comfortable. I can be comfortable. But every now and again I have to roll over, but I can only stay on my right side so long, and not very long. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a weird situation. But now,
And can you use a wheelchair?
I can, but sitting up is extremely painful. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
Painful
yeah.
in the back.
In the back, in the legs, in the hips, in the shoulders, everything. I don't have any cartilage really to speak of anymore, and I got a lot of issues, man, in a lot of places. It's pretty bad. It's not good. It's I mean, I think I accidentally had um, Walter listen. I kept my headphones on. I said, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I'll be right. I'll say, excuse me for a minute. I'll be right back. And I went to the bathroom, and halfway to the bathroom, Walter was like, "Holy!" I didn't realize he was listening to me, and I was like, "Oh God, yeah, it's pretty bad, pretty rough." How about you? How's your health?
Oh, I am asking you because my wife's brother, he fell from the roof and he's tetraplegic.
Oh, bummer.
He doesn't move anything.
He's a
Just
quadriplegic.
yeah,
Oh,
he moves his head. He can move his head and some movement with around his shoulders, just a little bit.
oh man, that's horrible, man. I'm sorry to hear that, man. My condolences.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
he's okay.
I,
Yeah, he's not into these issues, so I think it's a little bit more difficult for him because you know
he's stuck inside his head.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's not a good place to be, man. When in that
No,
situation, that's awful.
yeah.
Man.
It has been 20 years now.
Wow. Is he in the hospital or is he at
No,
home? Or
at home, but every now and then he must go to a hospital because he has problems with his intestine, with his guts, and and he he has that um, colostomy,
oh yeah, yeah,
colostomy.
yeah. Colostomy bag.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he had problems, and he has to pass the urine catheter. He cannot
Catheter.
urinate,
Yeah.
and so he needs people to be around him 24 hours a day because he cannot do anything.
Wow. Yeah, that's not good.
No,
Yeah, I at one point I was having to go through a lot of the welfare stuff, and I was still going through. Um, I was still going through a lot of that bureaucracy, and it has, or I was just actually beginning it, and you had to jump through a lot of hoops. I was still able to walk at that point, but it was I could ride my bike, but I could barely walk by that point. Although I was
You
still
mean a motorbike or a bicycle?
bicycle. I loved riding my bicycle.
No,
I
you
used to
can
ride.
ride the bicycle. No. You are muted. You are muted, Howard. Okay,
There. What was I saying?
bicycle.
I love riding my bike, and like I said, I didn't know anything about welfare or anything like that. I was just suddenly, I hadn't got my surgery yet, so I hadn't been crippled, but it was getting difficult. And the jobs were getting worse, and I was having to walk more and more. So it was one of those things where it was getting bad. And when I first asked for help from this lady from a place called Community Link, she told me, she basically let me know, look, you need to show yourself to be worthy of, the government's help. They're not going to just give any bum money. And I was like, that's kind of the way she said it. And I said, all right, I think I get the gist of what you're saying. I have to jump through these hoops and go to these different functions and try to make myself look like I'm trying to jump, do something. So I went to this church, and it hurt so bad that, I was just sitting, I rode my bike there, it helped my knees actually to ride. And I used to ride all day long because it actually felt better than doing nothing. And so anyways, I go to this church, and I'm walking down the pews, man. I'm hurting so bad, man. I get in the pew, and I'm like, God, I'm like, oh man. And I look over at this guy to the left of me, and he's literally got no arms or legs. And he just kind of looks at me and knew exactly what I was thinking. I was like, there's always somebody worse off. You know what I mean? And I didn't want to think that as I looked at him, but he knew exactly. I was like, oh man. And I look over, and he looked at me like, it could get worse, brother. It can get a lot worse. And so I just little reminders like that used to, they used to keep going. But that was a nightmare scenario. That was, I think, 13 years from the first time. Yeah, it took 13 years before I actually started getting any benefits. So it was a long haul, man.
Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, I consider myself lucky to be in this situation because I can speak. I'm talking to people from around the world. As long as I don't have to move, I'm not in too much pain. And so it's I've got a lot to, I'm grateful.
You take painkillers? No.
I don't take any pharmaceuticals. I try not to even take aspirin or ibuprofen because it just messes my insides up. And as far as I don't want to get addicted to opium. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't, and that whole thing, because the first thing that they did was they gave me, when I finally did get my surgery, they sent me home with enough opium to kill myself 5 times over. And I had never done this stuff before. I didn't know anything about it. And I took some of that stuff, and it felt so good. It scared me. I said, I can't do this because I'm going to
I'm gonna stick to it.
yeah, I will never get out of this. And I
Never.
know that I know people all my life that got hooked on these pills. And I know that in the story of with the VA, with the military guys, they want you to kill yourself so that they don't have to pay you. They want to, once they had the surgery, once I had the surgery, they were all about, here, take as many of these as you want, because you get, what it is that you get in such a funk that you cannot do what is necessary to go through the bureaucracy that is necessary to top
That's
out.
what they want. Yeah.
And they want you to die or go on the street and just be a junkie.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to do it, and even now that I'm almost over the whole thing, I still have, I could still fight for a little more benefit, but I am okay now, and as far as money and all of that. So, um, but now I prefer talking to people on Facebook. I prefer talking about, just this,
Yeah.
I prefer talking about Ramana Maharshi rather
Yeah.
than, being a junkie, rather than just being a complete, like a zombie.
Yeah.
Because it would, I'm telling you, Gio, it
Oh
felt
yeah.
so
It messes your mind.
good. You lose it.
You
Yeah.
take these painkillers with opiates, your
Yeah.
mind gets fucked up.
Yeah. And from that point forward, it's not you anymore. You're no longer you.
Yeah.
You're in this like totally codependent, or you're in this dependency. And
Yeah.
to be in that situation repelled me. I mean, I literally feel repelled by it. So
Yeah.
I prefer to deal with the pain by becoming the pain. I mean, that's how I do that. It's rather than running away from it and taking painkillers.
Yeah.
I go right to it.
You are
Yeah.
one of those rare fools that uses these things as a challenge to
Yes,
get to to you know
it absolutely is a challenge. I mean,
ach-
I remember before I had the option, and I knew that they were going to be giving me those pills, and I asked everybody on Facebook. I said, would you take a lie in a gilded cage of gold on cushions, or the truth on a rocky road without shoes? And the answers I got were amazing. I mean, I had that was back when I was still dealing with the general population of Facebook, and it was amazing how many different answers I got.
oh yeah,
Most people wanted to take the cushion, the
oh yeah,
gilded cage, and just. But there were some people like myself, man. I mean, as painful as it is, I want it to be real. As I want the experience to be
yeah,
unaffected. Yeah, by
yeah.
that.
There is
I
a
would.
bifurcation.
Yeah.
There you take one or the other, and you have chosen.
Well, and the thing is also, if you choose the easy way, you lose yourself. I
Yeah,
mean, you lose any capability, and it's just all you're doing is you're not really change. You're just making it worse. Whereas with my situation, because I've dealt with it this way, I am in a position now to where I do have clothes and food, and I did get eventually over that hump, and I'm not gonna die in the gutter. So, and the coolest thing about the pain, and this is odd to say, I don't know, for a lot of people who won't understand it, but the most amazing thing about the pain is um it makes you know it's almost like a method that has no, I mean, I have no control over it. So when the pain really comes hard, and I don't run, and I focus, and I
right.
become the pain and allow that to dissipate, it is a lesson every time. It's almost like an awareness of its own. I mean, I don't know how to say it. You know
Oh
what I
no,
mean?
I know what you mean because I used to like Gurdjieff, Gurdjieff,
Yeah. Mhm.
and Gurdjieff used to talk about the way of the fakir. The fakir is all about pain,
Yeah.
and it's one of the ways to wisdom is to withstand, or I don't know what you do,
Yeah. Yeah. I
what
become
they
it. Yeah.
do, but it
Yeah.
is one of the paths to wisdom is to understand pain.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you run from that, you end up being a shell of what you once were before you did.
Uh-huh.
I mean, if you take those drugs, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you can see it. Then you can see the light being lost in the eyes of the people that use that stuff. I've had friends that got hooked on them, and it was just sad, man. It was just
Mm.
sad. I'm sorry. There's no
Yeah,
other word for it. It was sad.
I have tried cocaine. I have tried cocaine for a few times, I
Yeah.
know what you mean. if you really let go, it's so easy to get addicted. Everything becomes nice and beautiful, and then you need it again and again and again and more, and you are fucked.
Hunter S. Thompson said it best, I think. He said, when you're dealing with somebody that is hooked on drugs, you're not dealing with that person. You're dealing with that drug.
With the
And
drug.
you're dealing with the drug, not the individual. So if you had a
Yeah.
friend that got hooked on coke or something like that, you got to realize you're no longer dealing with your friend. You're dealing with cocaine.
Yeah.
You know, that's the two totally different things. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, you know, and it's the same thing with the opium. I mean, it's the other way, but it's also that same thing where it's just, you know, impossible to I mean, some of those, once you get hooked, to come off it,
Yeah.
and for me to be in the pain that you know that I'm in, to get off of it would not make any sense. It would make
And I,
way more sense just to end it all. You
and
know?
I have been told that in United States, there are so many people addicted to the opioids, even people who are not sick at all, who have no pain at all. They are just,
Oh
they
yeah,
are just addicted for the pleasure of the
oh yeah,
opiates. I have been told that it's the most used drug in modern United States.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. There's uh yeah, because they're basically pushing it on you, you know, the oxycontins and
Yeah.
all of that kind of thing. You know, it just never ends. Yeah, yeah, they're it's actually you know, they want you to get addicted. So I mean, at least with the vets, they want you to get addicted so that they don't have to pay you. And you know, but it actually turned into be a better thing, a good thing.
Uh-huh.
But man,
Yeah, we were talking about Ramana. In his last few months, he had cancer, right, in his arm,
yeah,
and people wanted to take him to a hospital, and he refused. He kept giving the lessons, and right before, in the later times, he was sitting there on the usual place where he used to address his meetings, and people wanted to take him inside, let him rest. He said, no, 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 I want to stay here outside, and I want to address people. Yeah.
I thought I lost you there, Walter. Walter left. I was like, damn, we even
There he
talked
is.
Walter out of the room. But yeah, I agree, and I didn't know that about Ramana, that he got cancer in his arm. And
Yeah.
just, yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a million reasons, in my humble opinion, that you know, to stay uh, relatively about your own wits. Um, you know, paradoxically speaking. Now, that's not to say that I don't. I smoke a little bit of pot on occasion, not a lot because I'm not, you know, I just can't. But that helps. But I would rather do that than any kind of pharmaceutical, um, because it is natural. You know, I mean, there's a lot of things that are natural that are not good for you too.
No, of
But
course.
but
They
but
can kill you.
marijuana,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
marijuana is very
Oh,
very mild and
I
yeah,
used to like it, but my body is refusing.
yeah.
I I smoke, and suddenly I have unbelievable headaches.
Oh, really?
I don't know what happens. And it started slowly, then it got really severe. And I have tried with smaller joints, and more seldom. And then it came to a point I can't.
You know what the best thing that ever happened? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gio. I'm sorry. I didn't realize.
No, I said it came to a point where I one single puff, how would you call stroke, one single stroke, and 20 minutes later my head would throb, I said, no, enough. I don't want, I can't.
You know,
I don't-
the funny thing about the best thing that ever happened to me is along the same kind of line was uh alcohol. One this is probably 16 years ago, 17 years ago or something. I I used to use alcohol to kill the pain. And I just get drunk. And because I worked all day, every day, and I would just, as soon as I got off work, just start slamming beers, and it's just it's just so much pain. And then the next thing I know, um, one day I took a drink and it tasted bitter, and I was like, "This something's wrong with this beer," and I gave it to my friend, and he said, uh, he took a drink. He said, "There's nothing wrong with this beer," and I said, "Yeah, you can have it." And I grabbed another beer and I popped it. I took a drink and I was like, there's something wrong with this beer." And my buddy took a drink because this German beer is really, really expensive, good stuff. And every now and again, you'd get one that's bitter because the seal wasn't right or something. But again, and then I took a third one, the same thing. I
Same
was like,
thing.
man, there's something wrong with this, man. And I never drank again. I can't. I've lost my taste for it. One time I tried to drink some vodka, like I don't know how many years ago it was, 8, 10 years ago, and I couldn't drink it. And then when I got out of the my surgery, the first time I had no pain pills at all, or nothing, and I went to the ABC store and got a bottle of tequila, and I had to do that, but it was that was my first surgery, where the guy said that I was going to be at work on Monday. Yes. Thank you so much. So you're going to be back tomorrow at 11:30? Thank you so much, ma'am. No problem. Have a good day. So, I could not drink. And then,
The same with me.
yeah.
These days, I like very much the taste of whiskey, of wine, but I can't get drunk. I hate the feeling of getting drunk. I just don't like it anymore. And the same with cigarettes. I never smoked too much, but I used to smoke like 2, 3, 4 cigarettes a day. And again, headaches.
Right.
But then it took me about 12 hours. It came to a point that one stroke of cigarette and the next day my head was bursting.
Right.
I had to stop. No way I can smoke anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually, it's funny. It's kind of not funny, but I smoke now in spite of myself. I don't even want to smoke, and I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's I do a lot of things out of basic necessity and simplicity.
Yeah.
But like with smoking, it's a completely useless hobby. It's a completely useless thing to do.
Yeah. It is.
But yeah, I have no excuse for it. I don't know why I do it.
It's addiction.
Yeah.
Cigarettes are addictive.
Yeah.
I loved it. I tried to go to bypass my pain, headache for almost 1 year.
Mhm.
And I used to, when I came home from downtown to my house, I always I pass by a bar where they sell cigarettes, and I started to buy a single cigarette, saying, no, I will just smoke this one, and that's enough.
Right.
Then I started to give one puff of one cigarette, and it didn't work. I said, no, man, I have to stop. No way.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't. I can barely. Yeah. It's not even. It's kind of not even funny because I can barely even. I can't even breathe anymore, really. And to even smoke pot is like something I can barely do.
You
And
should stop with cigarettes.
yeah, probably I should, but at the same time, I love it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know it's terrible, but at the same
Yeah.
time, it's like Lou Reed said, I'm not addicted to opium, and I'm not slamming a bottle of vodka, but I am smoking a cigarette, and drinking soda.
Yeah.
But it's there's absolutely no right or wrong to it. It's just
Eh,
the way it
eh,
is.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just I don't want to judge people that are on pain pills.
There is no right or wrong in anything.
Right. Which is absolutely amazing in its own right.
Yeah. Just a second.
Yeah. Man. Mm.
Howard, I must get up to do a few stuff.
Hey,
Maybe I'll be back later. I don't know. I
cool.
have to
Good
see.
good
Okay.
deal. Yeah.
Nice to see you. Bye bye, Walter. Bye bye, Howard.
Yeah, he left 10 minutes ago.
No, he's there.
Oh, is he?
Probably
I
listening.
I came outside. That's why it keeps cutting off.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
I was like, Gio, we
A
lost
bad
Walter.
connection. But it was nice to talk to you.
Thanks, Gio. You're the man, brother.
Well, I wanted to enjoy the nice weather and talk to you at the same time.
It's awesome. I'm catching some of the wind, but yeah, man, I totally wish I was out there in the sun with you,
Can
man.
you? Yeah, brother. Yeah, I was just wanted to come out here and see if the conversation uh, simultaneously.
So what have you you got anything you want to say about
Still there,
like
Howard?
yeah, I'm here. So what do you think about Ramana Maharshi?
Okay. Say about what?
You're breaking up kind of bad, but I was asking I was just wondering what you were thinking about what everybody was saying about Ramana Maharshi and all that. Oh man, you got a beautiful day going on out there. Look at that. Wow, what a nice day.
Oh.
You're breaking up you're breaking up really bad, brother.
Boy, I guess I can't. It's good in here.
Oh wow, look at that. I can't hear. You're breaking up really bad, but I'm loving what you're showing me. Even though it's really freezing a lot, but I love it, man. Look at those beautiful clouds.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, so Raman, I read more. No.
You're really breaking up bad, man. I'm not picking up 10% of what you're saying, brother. Yeah, I'm not picking up. No problem at all.
All right, I'm gonna move, see if it'll improve.
Okay, I heard that.
Just let me
I
know
hear.
if it starts
I can
getting
hear you
better.
now. I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, I was just saying I hadn't read a lot of Ron.
And you're breaking up
don't,
again, brother.
uh,
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, dude. You're breaking up.
So I don't really have any. Oh. No, don't be sorry. Maybe it was a dumb idea to come outside.
No, I actually love it. The blue skies and the white puffy clouds. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'll flip it so you can see I'll show you around my neighborhood.
Sounds good to me.
There you go. See the ducks?
Yeah, the screen
Yeah.
froze. The
Not
screen
bad.
froze now.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know what to say. I thought I could do this outdoors,
Nice deck.
but
Nice little bridge. You got a nice little bay action going
I
on
hope
there,
you.
man. You live in the good side of town, huh?
Yeah, this is the good. Well, this is not my backyard, but it's not far.
You do much boating?
But Boston's a beautiful city.
Do you do much boating yourself?
No, I don't. I don't have.
Man, I
No,
thought
I
you were.
do
I
not.
don't know why. I thought you were in New
I
Jersey or
have
New York. Why did I think that?
no, I've been not sure.
No, because I remember we talked about Boston and the
So
Go ahead, sir, please.
It's a nice one. Oh no. I don't know. Is my audio any better?
Well, I'm seeing some park benches,
How-
and you're kind of breaking up. When you
Audio-
move, I think you break up. I'm not sure. I'm
All
loving this
right, I'm not
neighborhood.
moving. I'm sitting down.
I love the neighborhood.
Oh,
I
can
think your
can you
screen
hear
is
me?
catching up. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Well, I'm not moving. Just sitting right here. Good night.
Loving that big cabin cruiser. My gosh.
So you were in the Navy, right?
Yes, sir.
Were you in the Navy?
Yes, sir. I was.
Well,
Yeah, I'm not getting anything of what you're saying,
Howard,
Walter.
do you think this?
Yeah.
I don't know if this is gonna. Yeah. All right, bro.
Sorry, man.
I don't know if this is gonna work.
Yeah, I can hear. I just heard what you just said.
I
But
wanted to talk to you outside, but I don't. Oh.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right. Well, maybe I'll just let you. Okay.
Okay, man.
Well,
Yeah,
is
man. It's you almost got me to the end
this
here.
working?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. It's like it comes in every time.
Okay.
Yeah, it comes in spots.
Mhm. All right. Well, we made it.
Yeah, man. Dude,
It
Walter,
was
you're
really
the
nice to talk to you and Gio. I can't hear you.
I really appreciate it, man. Walter, I'm serious. Thank you, man. if it wasn't for you these last couple of weeks, man,
Thank you.
it would have been thin. It would have been very thin, man. And I'm eternally grateful for you, man. Thank you.
Well, you got a great crew. I really like Gio. He's really good when he says.
Yeah, I think he's hit an
I like
epiphany.
your the people who attend your meeting.
Yeah, and you're honestly, Walter,
Yeah.
you're the man, and
I was
I
just
really.
nodding my head when you guys were. You're the man.
Oh,
We'll
man.
do it again next week. Well,
Yes.
I learned something. I can't do this outside. So
Man,
lesson learned.
thank you so much, Walter.
But it was worth the try.
Absolutely. On a day like that, I don't, absolutely.
All right. Take care. Well,
All right.
I'll chat with you during the week.
Sounds good, brother. Absolutely.
All right. We'll do it again next week, brother.
Thanks, Walter, man.
All right.
Honestly.
Peace.
Peace, brother.
Be well.
Thank you. You too. That was amazing. I'll just finish this off, I guess. I'm here alone. I've got 13 minutes to 3. Um, uh, yeah, I was really pleased to be able to talk to Kokila a little bit about Ramana, and then it was fun that everybody knew a little bit about it and was willing to talk about it, and to lose those kind of negative stereotypes. Really, who cares? Um, I think I understand what Ramana is saying. Um, I don't think it has anything to do with a Western deity, or a deity as many would think he's referring to. You gotta know the lingo. You gotta know where he's coming from, or at any of them. Everybody's got their own vocabulary, and they're pointing to essentially the same thinglessness. They're just using different vocabulary to do it. So, um, and to be able to communicate with my friends in this way, shows that it's not a bad thing to look at some of this stuff and just and see for yourself what it is or is not. Um, what somebody means by God and experience and awareness and all these other things. Everybody's got their own take, and it's beautiful. You know, there's no reason to attach any kind of importance or meaning or reason or purpose to any of the stories. Um, and that is what the stories are indicating, that there is no meaning, there's no need to do anything at all. And that is in the most, as far as I can tell, positive sense, simply because no longer are you attached to the necessity of having to make sense or to make some kind of meaningful, purposeful story out of it. And because you find that lack of foundation becomes the beautiful apparency of a fountain of beauty. And it just kind of keeps pouring in. There's no need to, make your story seem more or less relevant than someone else's. Um, Now, of course, if somebody is actually talking about a deity, in that somebody is actually speaking of a doer, like a source, on that, sure, yet again, fine, whatever you want to believe in. That's not going to be my thing. um, I don't believe in that kind of situation, but that's the story of somebody that could or could not believe. Um, it's so amazing, uh, you know, to be able to meet with these people, you know, in this way. Uh, everybody's so beautiful, and everybody's coming to that realization, in the apparency of the moment that you know none of us are right or wrong, good or bad, or there is no evil, there is no good, you know, pain and pleasure, are subjective to the moment. They appear as the words appear, just a part of the story. It's not necessarily um, a me in pain. It is the story of pain in the form of a me having issues with physicality. So, in that way, um, I can both disassociate it and also become it simultaneously. It's difficult to articulate, but that's kind of what it is. You're both disassociating and becoming that sensation, and thereby negating it completely. Um, and the story of the individual in pain disappears. Sometimes easier than others. I'll grant you that. But yeah, to simply allow the appearance to be what it is, you know. Yeah. Mm. So amazing. Mm. I've got 7 minutes. I don't want to leave early because I say from 11 to 3, and I want to make sure I'm here until the end. Stay open until I say that I will close. And if somebody comes in, I'll be more than glad to talk to them.